focusing here. Yeah. So am I the only guy? The only guy. Oh. Basically, the vibe of this is we're just chatting about the teaching. We're going to take turns. Okay. It's incredible. Okay. Mostly just us talking about it. Do that with questions. There's interactions. And actually, when we are playing the rest, we might be just standing and talking. So the sitting is like we're watching a video. A little bit of just like feel. Okay. They don't know you. They don't get you. All right. About ready to start afternoon? Oh, she gets a warning before we start docking her grade.
Well, she's been absent twice now.
Oh man.
Although technically once was excused.
So part of our team, like our video came out like kind of funky and they're trying to redo it. Is it possible to play like the new version of the video? Or well, no.
Which team are you?
36.
Because we ended up like there was background
I mean, we're gonna go up and try the world. I guess. Is it a big difference or a little different?
It's just, I think, because
No, it's fine. We should be okay. All right, should we do attendance?
Yes, new attendance.
All right. Afternoon. Attendance time.
All right, team 38. Okay. Team 40. There's 4 of you. Who's missing? Sorry, but who is it? I missed it. Shin. Okay. Okay. Team 35. Is that all 5 of you? Okay. Team 36. 5. Okay. Team 37. Is that? I only see 4 of you. Can you raise your hands again? Team 37. Steve. Okay. Team 41. Okay. And Team 42. Is that all 5 of you? Okay.
All right. Welcome to afternoon lightning round. We have guest Jonathan who's here. He'll be the experience the modes with me. So if there's multiplayer, we're gonna go head to head. We'll be swapping on and off. Well, I don't know. Some of it might be competitive. But yeah, our goal is to try the worlds, talk about them. We know it's 1 week, so some of the stuff we'll be talking about is what we experience, but also like the potential, where the idea is going. Some of this round you're probably feeling is the reality of 1 week scope. And where do you have the beautiful dreams of exciting ideas and the reality of what can you build and execute in a week. So we'll be talking a little bit about that, but mostly like looking just have fun and see what you built. So with that, who are we starting with?
Team 38.
All right, Team 38, let's do it. How many guests? All right. Construction worker or directing traffic? need to calibrate, we can calibrate. Oh, live, like.
What kind of construction work are we after past construction? That's the question.
I think that's what construction workers are. Seesaw, all right.
Are we building the seesaw? Are we under construction? I feel like I'm always under construction.
You'll see.
Are we, the tracker's tracking? We good?
This is 911. What's your emergency?
Oh, hi. My name is Dale, and I'm the manager of the construction site downtown. The hurricane took two of our workers, and they're now trapped on this tower building or something. Please come and rescue them. They're gonna fall any moment now. Yeah, so many things are dropping down. It's pure chaos, man.
Hello, Dale. Please calm down. I'm connecting to the local reinforcement, and the rescue team is on its way. Please wait. Alright, just hang in there, guys. The help is on its way. That's what they told me.
Is it backwards? We can do this.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, it's shit.
Do I want to get hit or not want to get hit?
I feel like it's changing the weight, so I
Yeah.
don't know about getting it.
That's
Okay, getting it's bad. Up there is like 2 out of 3. I feel like we don't want to get 0. Okay, that's bad. It's bad. All right.
No. Uh-oh. Other
Oh,
way.
yeah.
It's big and backwards. It's kind of, it's like steering a boat. Oh, yeah. You just walked in it that way.
I'm understanding the back.
So the directions allow me to face that direction to see from that.
All right, well, so we need to pull the lighthouses on the side.
No, you can like just spin this like.
Oh, bring them back. All right, bring them back.
And they maybe stand this side.
All right, let's see.
We're going to do double backwards?
Wait. We'll figure this out. Restart.
No, face that.
Oh, this way.
Restart. We're watching this.
Okay.
All right. Ready?
Is that too much backwards? Do we just flip ourselves?
We'll see. When we get in, we'll flip ourselves next. All right. Restart.
Alright, just hang in there, guys. The help is on its way. That's what they told me.
Okay, here we go. All right. Get away from that. All right. I'll walk out a little bit and balance it. No, I stay in. Oh, if I get hit.
Where did the construction hat come from?
Those things fall. That's a really big construction pad. If I can hit my dog, that's
This is gonna stay here.
Uh-oh. Oh, there I go.
You wanna try again?
Sure, let's do it one more time.
Here we start.
There's too much weight, I think, on one side.
Alright, just hang in there, guys. The help is on its way. That's what they told me.
I feel like we triggered anything that was.
Uh-oh. Oh, that was a close one. Good movement. Oh, no. Oh. Too fast. I think it is. I think you're next. Okay, good. I'm gonna move out of here.
That's the
Uh-oh.
glitch.
Oh,
Yeah. That's because of glitch. The glitch is like glitching.
so whenever we get the drill, we die.
Not really.
Okay, that's cool. Should we do one more time?
Just do the video.
Yeah,
or-
do one more time. One more time and we'll stop.
Alright, just hang in there, guys. The help is on its way. That's what they told me.
You're gonna get first?
Yeah. I feel like I did this hat. You can catch the hat?
No. Okay. And then it's you again, another brick on your right.
So like, no problems.
The sequence is right.
Yeah. I know.
Okay, and I'm gonna get this drill that's gonna kill. Oh! I took it for the team though, so now we can keep playing. Okay.
Oh man, no. Alright, got it.
Is that hit point to the top?
I think so.
Oh, that hit my finger. That's not even count.
Because the glitch is moving your body that way as well. You
Oh,
see
is
that
it?
little
Oh,
shadow
it's
thing?
popping around. It's sort of like, oh no. Oh, it threw me.
Thanks to the glitch.
Let's screw it. We can speedrun this now.
We're both like.
No.
Oh, wow. The hurricane is getting more serious. It's bringing more stuffs. Just be careful, guys. Don't kill that, whatever waiter or something. This is 911. What's your emergency? Oh wow, the hurricane is getting more serious. It's bringing more stuffs. Just be careful, guys. Don't kill that whatever waiter or something. Oh wow, you guys did it. Congratulations.
Right.
But now you want to get up here and finish the work. Then you'll get your day off or whatever.
All right, let's talk about this.
Do they get a mic or do I get the mic?
We haven't get a. There's another up there. All right. Well, so just from the beginning, like you gave us vests, which is really nice. Like just giving us a sense of a character. Like immediately you start talking about like, oh, who am I? Like what am I gonna do? Like it just sets up expectation in a really good way. And like this world was a little bit about meeting expectations and subverting expectations, because like the world sets up, it's about Seesaw, and then the world starts, it's about a hurricane. And so you have this interesting escalation. My reaction was, what is going to happen? And so in a good way, I was like, what's coming next? And I was sort of looking for a surprise. The basic interaction is really solid. I really liked how there's the idea of balance, and as we move, we're playing with balance, and the things are both a danger to us and a danger for the balance. And so it felt like a very connected system, and playing with that was something that was interesting to think about as we were doing it.
Yeah. I kept not being sure whether the items, like if we had to offset the items with our positioning, you know what I mean? Because they also disappeared. So I was like,
Yeah.
Are they unbalancing the saw on one side? And so we have to like move to adjust to them? Or am I just moving in relation to you? Or do we really have control over the seesaw at
And
all?
I think my reaction ended up being, I don't know the consequences of the seesaw unbalancing.
Yeah.
Like it never felt like we were that close to losing control.
Because it feels like in a seesaw, the main danger is falling off the back in a
Yeah.
two-dimensional version. Though, like, Mario style, where you have the like floating platforms that you have to like balance on both sides or whatever. But like in a real seesaw, you can also like fall off the side, which is where like my kids get injured, right? If they're
Yeah.
like riding into yard, they like fall off and hurt themselves. So
Yeah.
I wasn't sure exactly how the seesaw.
Yeah, and watching the interface, it took a little bit, but I saw the 1 out of 3, or the 3 out of
Yeah.
3, which wasn't obviously health, but once like we got hit, and
Yeah.
like I will say like the visuals and the sound effects really did a lot to reinforce this. Like the sound of the objects hitting,
Yeah.
and it just really made it feel solid. And I think the seesaw moves when things hit.
Yeah.
And so those connections, and then seeing the number go down, it's like, okay, there's a sense of health.
I also felt like I had an emotional reaction to different objects differently.
Oh, man.
Like if the drill was coming down, I was like, holy shit, I'm gonna
Yeah.
get killed. But like the giant hats coming down, I have to say I felt a little bit less threatened by them. I don't know if that's why I kept getting hit by them, but there wasn't as much of a twitch urge to be like, get
And-
out of the way.
And I think to that end, I expected, because the objects were different,
Yeah.
I expected some difference.
Yeah.
And I don't really know if there is a difference, because
Yeah.
it's a very discrete, if it hits you, lose a health point.
Right.
And then because it didn't get a good feel for the consequences of the seesaw unbalancing,
Yeah.
I didn't have a great sense of like, oh my gosh, like that one's over the edge near the end, so it's going to be really hard to rebalance.
Yeah.
I think it's partially just a little bit of a difficulty.
Because the way
thing.
levers work, right? If you have weight closer to the end, it gives you more lift on the other side, right? Because that's why people use them.
we did some tests and we found if I set the weight too high, it
Yeah.
can be very difficult to.
Yeah, I can believe that.
Yeah, and-
but you're also like, is the flamingo that's probably hollow weigh as much as the waiter? Probably not, right? But like, just because that makes sense intellectually doesn't mean it has to work that way in the game.
Yeah.
Right? So,
That said, the escalation in the middle, like things are picking up,
Yeah.
was really nice because the setup of the world gave us this hurricane
Yeah.
and gave us this sense that like a bad thing's happening and it has the potential to make things kind of crazy.
yeah.
And
the weirder objects coming in the second phase made a lot of sense.
Yeah,
too.
it was, and I really like that because we were definitely getting to a place where the basic play was getting repetitive.
Or we memorized the sequence, and so we're prepared
Yeah.
for the first stuff. But then
Yeah.
you're like, oh no, it's bonus round time, and you're like about to get creamed by some more
Yeah,
bricks.
and I wanted more of that.
Yeah.
Like I really like where you went with that. Like the idea of gnomes and each thing being surprising. So the place I'd push this, if I were to iterate it, would be to really lean into the escalation.
Mm-hmm.
And I would want to figure out how to escalate both graphically, like that's kind of weird looking,
Yeah.
but also have that
like
be a
go
little,
full Katamari in terms of like the weird stuff that would
yeah,
come up.
but then I kind of want some gameplay implications for different things.
Yeah.
Like the flamingo does something different than the waiter, not like in a big dramatic way, but like the waiter is heavier and the flamingo is lighter. Therefore,
Yeah.
it's a little bit different.
Or the waiter like kicks around and says like ah or whatever in a way that's like really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think to that end, I would want to know a little bit more about the balance.
Yeah.
Like, is this a world that's about just dodging, or is it dodging and balancing?
Dodge and balance, we set some a different weight for everything. So when we tested yesterday, we just found if we were to set the weight too high, just for the waiter,
Yeah.
it can be very hard because if it's unbalanced,
Yeah.
it fails as well.
It's like
Yeah.
it shifts too quickly for you to react to
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And to that end, I would wonder what could you, so the challenge of surviving in terms of health, really clear.
Yeah.
I know how to fail. Failing is,
Yeah.
I go to 0. With the balance, there isn't a clear goal or a clear
It'd be cool if
danger.
there was a little graphical thing that was like, this is how much weight you have on this side. That's like 250 kilograms, and the other side is what, and it just keeps going up the whole time
Yeah.
or something, right? So you try to get it to neutral or whatever.
Well,
somehow.
and to that end, I think
or
I
the
want,
objects don't disappear, so they just pile up and pile up
I
and
want,
pile up.
I want the world to tell me what success and failure is. Like,
Yeah.
do I need, and so an example would be, let's say I had to raise the other person into the air to get something, right?
Right.
Like it would be a
special
real
item floating above
it
Dave's head.
It would be a really clear goal. Like all of a sudden, balance needs to be unbalanced to like prop the other person up, and so we need to work together. And that's what I sort of look for in iterations. Like, can you create a goal within this world that uses balance in a way that I can sort of like understand how to use my tools, basically movement, to achieve that. And then what you do is you give me a new object that interferes with that goal, and now I have to like, I'm surprised by the object and I'm challenged by it, which would be what I sort of look for.
Absolutely. Because you kind of have classic like arcade game gameplay, right? So you could even see it as like, if it's like Donkey Kong or something, like this is the first level. And then you like climb the ladder up to the next level where they have even weirder stuff falling down or whatever, right? And so you either escalate within the framework you already have, or you escalate to like a new thing, right? Where there's even weirder stuff or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was good. I liked it a lot.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to like answer your concern, which is it's not clear why so many things are falling down and there's like no clear goal in the game. I guess we try to explain the goal of the game in the beginning animation where there's a hurricane coming, and so there's obviously objects in the construction site are flying everywhere, all over the site, and you have to, and there's a 911 gonna come in to rescue you.
Yeah.
so-
Yeah, there's a
and
time
actually,
limit, yeah.
Though that setup is really good. It helped. I understood it, and it helped. Like when the gnome showed up, I wasn't like, where are the gnomes coming from? I was like, whoa, this hurricane like picked up some gnomes and they're landing on us.
Yeah.
So I really liked the story and the fact that we had to survive for a certain period of time. That was really good. It was just the balancing job. So like that all tied into like health and surviving, but the balancing, it wasn't clear how that fit in with those things because it never felt like we were in danger. And that was
Except for getting
so-
hit by things.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. Like because it's not a clear angle where it says if it's like 45 degree, then you die. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
And,
that's
and that would be a little like I like the complexity, and that was a piece of the iteration that I'd look to is how do you make the balancing feel like more of a thing I have to worry about and work with, as opposed to something that where it's tuned right now. My reaction was, the balancing isn't the hard thing here. It's the dodging the objects.
Yeah. Was there a time limit where we would win? That's the
Yeah,
first-
there's
okay.
a 90 second.
seconds, okay.
If you win,
Yeah.
like survive the 90 second,
Yeah.
and the 911 will come to get you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's the.
I did see Jonathan fall one time.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
That's
I love falling.
like it's like tilted to a certain degree, it will fall
Okay. But do you fall off the end or do you fall off the front?
wherever.
Oh, okay.
If
Uh-huh.
the seesaw kind of just like get to this angle,
Cool.
whoever's on that side will just fall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be cool if you got a little bit of feedback that was like, too steep or something, and then you like fall, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
or whatever. So that way I knew that I fell off as opposed to the glitching or the getting hit by stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, good work, guys.
Yeah, it was great.
Thank you.
Team 40.
I'll go mustard, you go.
We can switch maybe if it's short.
Alright, so person, I'm gonna grab on the trackers. I'm holding them, and I was like,
Does it matter if he does it this way or this way?
find out.
Okay, okay. Nice.
Which way should we face?
Well, we're in the same
Face the
unit.
screen?
Anyway, it doesn't, direction doesn't matter, as long as they collide.
Why don't you stand behind me and squeeze stuff? We're in the same unit, right?
Do you, should we face the big screen?
Does that flip everything again? That's the only two parts.
No, let's turn around, I guess, I'm inclined to say we're playing on the screen.
And it makes it harder for them to see what we're doing. So much better.
This way that our movements are aligned with the screen. Yeah, that is not. Yes. Alright, calibrate up.
You want me to touch it or no?
Track of calibration.
Hot dog party.
So this is two, so left, you touch two and the left, two and left. Yeah. And then, yeah, one on the right, and then cal. And then just hold it hard, and then when you want to do it, just squeeze it.
Yeah.
And then play, quick, you can quick eye. And then it's instruction.
Tilt your feet, move.
I guess so. Ready as water?
Alright, and then you can hit play.
Well, we're on it straight.
right, right one, left two. And then just play. Should there be a distance where it's like Sorry, guys.
Hello.
You got it?
Hello. Okay, yeah.
So the controls of this, so Jonathan, you were using the rudder to move left and right. So
Yep.
basically an endless runner, you're constantly moving forward,
Yeah,
or you had, so just left and right for controls.
pretty much, yeah. And it seemed like there were 3 lanes, kind of like in a rhythm game or something, right? So you're like trying, but instead of trying to hit the things, you're trying to avoid them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then for the mustard side, I'm bringing them together to squeeze the mustard. The one thing I didn't get from the video is, do I have to be in the lane next to the mustard to be able to get mustard on the hot dogs?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not just, I can't put mustard from anywhere. We have to work together to be in the right location near a hot dog to make that go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then sometimes you just get hosed like that. There was like double Coke bottle and a
Yeah.
beer bottle in the middle that seemed really tough.
And it looked like there were hearts indicating health.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think one of the early questions was, are you gathering things or are you avoiding obstacles?
Yeah.
And so there's a little bit of like,
Little bit of-
like getting a sense of the world.
Yeah, I wasn't sure whether you were squirting mustard to try to knock the things out of the way, and then once I saw that you scored with the hot dogs, then that made sense. Yeah.
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 I mean, a lot of the structure is very like endless runner, like dodging lanes and stuff like that. It's a nice, simple pattern to work with. And I like the idea of adding in, making it multiplayer and making it be like the other guest has to do something in coordination with us.
Yeah.
I definitely had the questions where it's sort of like getting ready. How much cooperation would I feel?
Yeah.
And looking at it, I don't know. Like I'd be curious as two people played it. Like where is there you're doing your thing, which is just
Right.
dodging, and I'm just waiting for opportunities.
Well, you also have to strategize your mustard use, which we didn't really get to see either, because your mustard diminishes over time.
Yeah.
And so it seems like you also have to decide when it's risky to go for a hot dog, and when
Yeah.
you want to save your mustard for one that you're definitely going to hit later on.
Yeah. So all of that, like it feels like there's an interesting relationship in the two guests
Yeah.
what we're doing. It definitely, I think, felt a little bit on the endless runner side of things,
Yeah.
where I would like if I were to iterate this, I would push hard on the cooperation.
Yeah.
Like how do we talk? Like what would be the discussions we have?
Yeah.
And I felt like if I were to play this, there would be limited. I would be more waiting for my chance to go as opposed to talking like, oh, should we go for it? Because I think from an endless runner perspective, your job is to be sort of reactive
Yeah.
and just navigate us well. And like there's some design tension between can you make that path work and get the hot dogs,
Yeah.
and how do we sort of see that and think about that?
Yeah, for me, the steering felt better than an endless runner in the sense that like it wasn't just like slide over automatically a lane, slide over automatically a lane. The fact that it was like free flowing made it more interesting because on the one hand, I couldn't be totally sure that I was in right position to miss something because maybe I was like in between through things or I was like steering fluidly around something else to do something else. So I actually really liked the movement. It didn't, because like sometimes in runners you're just like, I'm in this lane, I'm in this lane, I'm in that lane. And I think the smooth steering actually made it more interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you tried it single player?
Single player, yes.
How does it feel? Because the one that I see about the rudder is humans are decent at having their feet do something and their arms do something else. And I sort of wonder, like, is it overwhelming to try to do it all as one person? Or does it actually kind of start to become a more cohesive thing to do?
You need a lot of practice probably.
So for what we reserve, probably like one player might be a little bit easier because like we know where we want to go, and then like if you see a hot dog on the left, go to the left, squeeze on the left, and then there's like you don't need no communication, you do it by yourself, so it's like you're a whole, and then it might be easier to do like hand-feet coordination than just like two players. With two players, you might have like I want to go to the left, but then like the other player is steering to the right, something like this.
Yeah. And I think that's where I would like think about the iteration of like how do you put interesting choice to the two guests?
Yeah.
Because there is a little bit. My sense is, are there hot dogs splitting us? I don't know exactly what the interesting choice is because if there's an obstacle, it's high stakes. Like if we run into an obstacle, we die.
Yeah.
Whereas we miss a hot dog, it's like whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that would be some of the design of this, like the balance. Like how do you create the scenarios where there's tension between what we want to do, and we sort of have to work it out.
Yeah, I mean, part of it was like, if the difficulty was a little bit higher, we'd have to coordinate even more, right? If there were 5 lanes instead of 3 or something, then you would have to be like, okay, Dave, I'm gonna slide all the way over, you're gonna grab that hot dog, then I'm gonna slide all the way over to the other side to avoid this obstacle or something, right? And you'd develop some system. I'd be calling out like, okay, 2, 4, okay, 1, and then like we would have to figure something out, right? In order to like screw around,
So one thing we did design is like the speed does eventually accelerate once you get more into the game. Also like so some places there will be obstacles in all 3 lanes, so it forces you to lose the health. But also when you get like 5 hot dogs, you get an extra health.
Oh, I
so
see.
sometimes we were thinking about.
So you're like making choices about getting hot dogs.
Yeah, either you believe your teammate will steer through the obstacles. If not, it's like I'll go get a hot dog, and then we'll make sure we have 1 extra life, something like that.
That'd be cool.
All the pieces seem to work decently well. I did want some more feedback. The fact that you give me this big character who has big arms, it feels like the arms want to be connected to the trackers. I also, like, you give me 2 trackers, and there's like hot dogs. Part of me is like, I want to like reach. Like this world sort of to me felt like it had the potential to go spatial in the sense that right now I've got a sort of like a binary control, which is squeeze or don't squeeze.
Yes.
But you give me my hands, and you give me 2 of them, and you give me this big character, and we're moving on the track, and it's sort of like I want to reach and grab for things. And so the nature of the interface you gave me sort of like put me in a mindset of we work together to reach places that are hard to reach. But the reality of it was I have to like time my squeezing, and so the interface didn't say too much about timing to me as much as it did incentivize me to think about reaching.
Yeah, you can imagine a version where there's like 2 of us, I have the ketchup, he has the mustard, we have to both hit the hot dog, and then on the third, if it's like in a loop where we go around and around and around, then we have to grab it after we've fixed it up and eat it or something, I don't know. But like, again, that's like more iteration in terms of like complexity, which in a week you can't do, right? So
I have a little question that if we want to make the cooperation more funny, should there be more conflicts in their cooperation? Like the player A's, what player A is doing is actually becomes the obstacle of player B. Because I feel that in like a cooperation game like Overcooked, I feel that's really funny.
Yeah, well, man, Overcooked. And Overcooked is actually an interesting example. So Overcooked is a really hard cooperation game. Like it's multiplayer, we're trying to work together, and it's timing based. And the real strategy of cooperation is we are working well together to achieve this goal. And it's a good question about tension between like sort of conflict and cooperation. And the question I would put to this is, what does it mean to work together and do that really well? And I love the question of, what does it mean to be good at this? Like, what does it mean to get better? And for this, it feels like it would be less about choice, like which way do we go, and more about execution. Like, that's gonna be a hard one to get, but we have to do it, like, so like, get ready, let's time it. We have to go and jump and right at the right timing, I do this and you do this. And cooperation, I think, when it becomes coordination, and like Overcooked is a huge game of like timing and coordination. Like that thing's on fire, I'm gonna go put it out, you go over there, you grab the buns, you go over there, you get the thing cooking, and now they're all right at the same time, come together. And so the idea of individual work that's timed is really interesting. I think that'd be a thing to like think about is what would this world say about cooperation and coordination? Like we are working together to achieve something that's kind of tricky.
Yeah.
And the beginning of this sort of hints at that, right? To work together means we have to get close, and then you do this. And then it'd be like escalation. What does it mean now to do the next harder one?
Yeah.
And that's sort of what this world, I think, sort of hints at is like what is more complicated cooperation?
Yeah, I do think you're right that if there was more direct relationship between what we were doing, then we would have to coordinate more. Like say, if Dave is controlling the speed at which we're going, or if he's controlling the placement of objects, like sliding them across or whatever, then he has to slide stuff over to make a room hole for me, and then I have to drive us through it or whatever. And that requires us both doing it at the same time. Because right now it's like, I slide over, you hit the thing, then I move, then you hit the thing. And it's sort of not synchronous, if that makes sense, and that there's like I have to set up for him, he does the thing, and then his job is over until I set up again. Does that make sense? It's more like volleyball.
Well,
like set for you, and then you spike it, and I set for you, and you spike it.
And what you're sort of pointing at is that when we look at the experience, we can both sort of see the goal.
Yeah.
And we sort of strategize together to achieve that goal.
Yeah.
And right now, the thing that it feels like is we can both, like your strategy for achieving the goal, if I'm worried about the mustard, I'm kind of okay with you managing your own strategy.
Yeah.
And then my strategy is to like take opportunities that you create.
Right.
And that's a form of cooperation that works. But the next level up is we both see the goal and we strategize together to achieve the goal.
How to get it, yeah.
I think that would be the cool thing. Some things that are really nice. I really actually like the screen breaking moment. Like it was a piece of feedback on health. There was definitely some clarity issues on what is good and what is bad that we sort of ran into early. Like the questions about beer and ketchup. I feel like there's a whole thing about hot dogs and ketchup. I don't know if you're bringing that commentary into this world. Like there's a whole school of thought that says ketchup does not belong on hot dogs. Anyway, it's a very like the world of hot dogs in the United States is a thing we could talk about at some point if you want to.
Is there a Pittsburgh dog?
There's what is the Pittsburgh dog? The classic.
Because there's a Chicago dog and a Cleveland dog. Is there a Pittsburgh dog?
Slight divergence into hot dogs.
Okay.
Pittsburgh dog would probably be a spicy brown mustard, chopped onions, and sauerkraut.
Sounds good. I'll do that.
So
Cool.
anyway,
Thank
hot dogs
you,
is a thing. Anyway, good work,
Thank
team.
you.
Really good start. Good potential for this.
Thank you.
Team 35.
What is your hot dog? Do you have a
Hot dog, where I go, it's chopped raw onions, mustard, yellow mustard, and like bad chili out of a can.
Is that Ohio?
They call it all the way. No, it's in like Mid-Atlantic, like McDonald's.
Okay.
This is an eye tracker world, which if you guys wanted to try it.
You want to try our checker?
Sure, why not?
All right. Go over there.
Ready? I sit over here.
TIS.
Okay, it's not your issue, it's tech issue.
Yeah,
You're fine.
it's on us.
You can blame these people. Let's try it.
Yeah,
All right.
let's try it.
Okay, attempt number 2.
I would say this eye tracker is so much better than the old one.
I can only believe it.
The old one had like motors to like move little cameras.
I mean,
It never worked for me. Like we'd be in class, be like it was working last night. It's like always off. So much better.
hey,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
move around. Thank you not very much.
It doesn't have,
Just disappeared.
yeah, it's not a very good line of sight. Maybe it's not.
See you read it.
Is it unhappy?
Yeah,
I mean, you can come try. At least we've done it before. You already have a profile.
yeah, I think it's, for somehow it's better at protecting your eyes than it is.
It's because I'm immune.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Oh. Big eyes.
No, it's fine. Only for a day, but some people. You can really do much of class.
We're not playing the game yet.
I tracker doesn't work.
Setting calibration.
You're just the first one I probably found for. I mean, you can always cut the lights and just glare. I don't really know these things. Do you know what they actually sense?
Called 35 Butler.
They sense like the dark spot and that's the white.
All right, let's do it.
I would imagine so.
Okay.
I don't know
They're not just
the
like shiny
anticipation
lights.
of world titles.
They have persistent data saving.
Everyone forget about what happened before.
All gonna make sense now.
Adds so much
right. Whew. No, there's like 2 layers to this. There's the mechanical experience, and then there's the world of Buttman. And so like the.
You remember the song "Do the Bartman" from our?
I do.
Okay, never mind.
So yeah, this world is weird, but in a way that like we sort of talk about weirdness. Like this world has this whole mythology to it, like a world of buttmen, and they're violent, and we're trying to bring peace to the world. And you know what? I'm there. Like you don't need to really explain too much because the world is such in a weird place. I'm ready for any explanation, which is like is a good use of like going to a weirder place. Like a lot of times when we talk about making a world, one thing you can do is you can build on intuition and my own experience and what I know about the world. And because you're picking something that's immediately foreign in a way that I'm pretty sure is foreign to everyone in the world, my brain's like, okay, like I don't know about this, so you tell me and I'll believe you. And in some sense, anything you tell me is believable. Of course, buttmen are violent. Like, of course, that's the problem with society. And of course, I'm the person who's going to come and solve all the problems. And so it's like using a fiction that actually has almost no like relatedness to what I already understand gives you that ability to sort of reset things and give me a framing that is going to work. Now, the nice thing is it's simple. Like if you tried to like tell me the story of like these warring clans, and you need to understand that the red buttmen do this, but the blue ones do that, but watch out for the green ones. And then when you get to this point, you have to like pick up the milk jugs because that's magic to them. Like all of a sudden the weirdness is fighting you, but you've got a simple idea, and the story is weird, but it's simple and it works. And then the experience is interesting because I did it the first time, and I thought I knew what I was doing. Like my sense was I want to keep them from fighting. And the reason why I picked that up was I had that red sort of like focus, and I had feedback that so I could push them around a little bit and keep them from fighting. And so like I picked up immediately, even without the backstory, that my job was sort of like mitigate that. And then the second time, I don't know how much, I think it was just already knowing that, I was able to like use that to manage the crowd even better. And I'll say, like from an eye tracking perspective, it felt like a good match for the mechanic of like using my eyes and what I was trying to do. Like I felt like I was managing a crowd, and my job was to keep them separated. And I was like, I'd glance at them and be like, hey, you get back there. And like that sort of like movement of my eyes matched a little bit of like a story I was telling in my head. And it kind of came together to be a little fantasy of using my attention to manage these angry little characters and keep them apart. And by keeping them apart, I'll achieve success, which is kind of what the world was really about, like paying attention and all that stuff. And so like it felt from a pacing perspective, like I think it was about right in terms of timing. I don't think I'd want too much longer because the interest curve was sort of like becoming repetitive. There wasn't really any escalation happening. Nothing was really changing. But within that time period, it was working for me.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Hello. Hello.
Is it green? No, it died.
Probably just cut it off. Yeah, I think it's interesting. So eye tracking is like a surveillance technology, I guess, at its core, right? And to me, it's interesting that you took a surveillance technology and you tried to turn it into a like positive thing, if that makes sense, sort of flipping it a little bit, being like, okay, I'm using my eyesight to look at things and that will bring peace. Does that make sense? I think the only thing that felt weird to me about it is you're still sort of falling into some of the narratives that we have about surveillance, right? In the sense that like, okay, what does the surveillance culture tell us? It tells us some people are inherently violent, and if we watch them really carefully, they won't cause problems, and that society will be safer. Does that make sense, right? And so like, if you take this and you replace the buttmen with like black people, for example, right? You get a really kind of messed up narrative. Does that make sense, right? And so I think even when you've reskinned it, I think be a little bit careful about what the message of the game is. Does that make sense, right? In terms of like, I don't mean this in a way that like you did anything bad or that you're inherently racist or something. I'm saying like part of it is this tool, is a surveillance tool, right? And so even when you try to use it as a game, you might end up replicating some of the things that the tool is really designed for, right? Which is to like watch people, right? So that was the only thing that kind of struck in mind for me. I do think it's really interesting to have like nonsensical premises for games, because like when you think back to it, that's kind of like the origin of all video games in a way, right? Like when you think back to like Mario is really messed up, right? He's a plumber and there's like mushrooms and like he jumps on them and you're like, who thought that made any sense, right? But like we've played Mario games for like 30 years now, so it all seems normal, right? And so like if you start out with something that seems nonsensical, like you can imagine like what does Buttman 37 look like, 100 years in the future after this game, right? All of a sudden the mythology is like really complex and everybody's like, oh yeah, Buttman, everybody knows about Buttman, right? You know what I mean? And so I think there is something really cool about nonsensical video game premises, because like there's just like, it makes the mechanic itself the focus, right? And like doing the thing is fun, right? Like looking at the people and keeping them apart is really interesting. And like codifying that into the premise of the game is actually like really smart. So I think that in general is a really cool design idea.
It's an interesting thing about the surveillance thing, because the way the mechanic was implemented, the red circle felt physical.
Yeah.
Like it felt like I could push them with it, which moved it away from being like, it's my gaze, and it's more like I'm actually pushing them apart.
Yeah.
And I could see like, if you wanted to make this more about surveillance, I would have them react to my gaze in a way that's more like, oh, you're looking at me,
Oh, yeah, like-
as opposed to what was really happening, which was like, I'm pushing you away.
Like physically, yeah.
And it was, and I definitely felt less surveillance.
And more like laser eyes or something.
And yeah, and more like laser eyes, more like
Yeah.
I have a magical like gaze that can push.
Yeah.
And it does get into the subtleties of, this is on some level a very simple mechanic, but just the fact that it was a persistent red oval that had like a physical push,
Yeah.
moved it from a mental image of, I'm looking at you and I'm causing them to stop fighting out of like shame and being watched, to I am physically separating them and I'm more managing like a bunch of like children by keeping them
Right.
separated, as opposed to I'm using the power of like my vision and surveillance and that
Yeah.
to change their behavior.
Right.
And it's just like, I don't even know if you talked about that. Probably like it wasn't a major like discussion in terms of like mechanics, but small things like that change how it feels. And like I said, this felt like I was pushing, as opposed to I was watching. And I actually sort of enjoyed that as a mechanic, because it was all about the feedback and it worked pretty well. Cool. Anyway, a strange world, but I
Definitely
felt like
memorable for sure.
It was
right?
memorable, and I enjoyed playing it. And I think the thing I would push on if I iterated it was like, what is the escalation?
Yeah.
What does it mean to build from, like, this feels so like the first like introduction level. What is the next level up? Like, how do you build that interest curve into like a next moment? Like, and then some of that might be like, what is the story here, and what is the next moment in the story too? Which is a weird thing to think about. I don't know how much lore I want to think about in the world of Buttmen.
Right. Now, I mean, starting out, you're just a beat Buttman watcher, but then it escalates, and now you become a professional
That's right.
Buttman watcher.
My career trajectory.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, very strange.
Thank you,
but
team. It was
cool
great.
work. Good work.
Team 36.
I have the most beautiful.
I love my hat.
I have the most beautiful. In this world, my hat was blown to another island by the zebras. But this difficulty can't stop me.
Ready, camera ready.
I'm ready.
Oh no! Why?
We're still recording.
My hat! Where are you going?
That's too far. Oh, shit. Yes.
My precious. Wait for me!
Nope. Not the last one. So where are you, my dear lovely? There. I'm so tired.
My precious. Wait for me!
Okay, I think this is the last jump. I can make it. Yes, make it. This is right for me.
My name is Skipper. I have the most beautiful hat in this world.
All right. I've got a lot of questions. All right, bring the lights up. All right, you want to sort of move around? Sort of. All right, so fish and a hat and the Icarus device. Okay, I'm gonna try to guess how the world works. I admit, after watching that, I don't have a good sense of how it works. We're gonna work through this. So, one, you're using the Icarus device with just the device. I'm looking at a screen, right? Yeah. So my context isn't headset, like virtual world. It's I'm on the Icarus thing and a screen's in front of me. So I'm a fish. I lost my hat. I got that. The hat is huge. Like this, the relationship between the fish and the hat is an area of questions, but we'll accept that for now.
It probably makes it easier to hit the hat.
Yeah. So like the nice thing is like the hat's super clear to see. I know where it is. As a fish, I'm basically flopping, jumping in like big leaps to get to the hat. And there's a meter on the side, and that meter seems to indicate, I would guess, power for the thing. Do you have any buttons or any controls, or is it just? Oh man, the mystery of this. Like so.
Guess you're gonna have to go play it.
And watching it every now and then, I'd look down and be like, the just swinging of the Icarus going up and down, and be like, what is going on here? It looks like there's a target that shows up, which is about where I'm gonna land. And it seemed like we could, something we would bounce at times, it looked like. We could also re-jump. Is that about right?
Like in the middle of the air sometimes too. Yeah.
So it seems like we have a control over that meter, and we have control when we jump, and our goal is to get to the hat. Once we get to the hat, like all hats do, is like, screw you, I'm going somewhere else. And we have to do it all over again Okay.
Yeah, sounds right.
That said, Jonathan, you made a comment. We were talking like it feels like golf.
Yeah, it did feel like a golf game with the hat is like the
yeah.
hole you're trying to get to.
Which
you got your power meter. You're like trying to arc to get close to it, and then you putt from a shorter distance
like,
away.
So
yeah.
in terms of like expectations of BBW, at no point did I think, you know what we're going to get today, is a team using the Icarus
To make a
device
golf game, yeah.
to create a golf game themed around a fish trying to get to its hat.
Yeah.
But here we are. Anyway, it seems like a big part of this is how you really interact. And so I think I'm really curious what it feels like to do this. Could you describe how do you describe the mechanic of launching the fish into the air?
Is that you push the across down,
Yeah.
and your jump force would depending on how low.
Okay, I load. Basically, I charge it. I go down. I get it set, and then do I pop up?
Pop it?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I have to like mimic a jump
Yeah.
with it, and then we'll go up.
You pop a wheelie on the Icarus.
Yeah.
And then just fly through the air.
Okay, I mean that.
And also when you're in the air, you can just rotate yourself.
I can fly a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
What happens if you fall in the water? Is it over?
You will explode.
You explode. Oh, okay.
To the previous start position.
Oh, interesting. Because
All
that's
right.
like the opposite of what happens to real fish. So.
It's a specific kind of fish.
Oh, it's a land fish. Oh, okay. Okay.
All right, we've got a mud skipper.
Yeah, I was wondering about it because if it was like a frog that was trying to stay out of the ocean or something, right? I would have like, I mean, because like amphibians don't like salt water or whatever, right? So I get the mud skipper thing now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. that makes
It's
sense.
funny. I was watching it, and I actually had reactions like I kind of want it to become a flying fish, like because if we're gliding in the air. But I love the fact that you all know it's a mud skipper. Well, and I, no, as a real point,
Yeah.
like this is a part of like building a world and knowing your world.
Yeah.
And the fact that as a team you know what kind of fish this is says a lot about like how this world came to be and where you would take it. And understanding what kind of fish you're working with is part of that. And it's really great. Mud skippers are like they very much like these things that sort of flop on land. They've got these big gaping mouths. They don't wear hats as far as I know. But I'm sure if they did, they'd wear, top hats, and they'd really like them a lot and try to get them. Yeah. So this, I really want to try it. It feels like the interaction is really unique. Some things about like watching it, it felt long. And it felt like the escalation, like basically the hat moving, felt like the same thing each time. And I would wonder, like, how could you tune that so like the first time it happens, it's sort of like a little bit of a surprise and escalation, but it changes a little bit. And so by the final time, it's not just we've done it a bunch, we've done it, and now we've finally done this. We've sort of like achieved this thing.
I mean, one thing, can I add this before? Like one thing because it was this video of it being successfully done, I think actually in practice it would be pretty difficult because the islands are different sizes, they have different terrain on them. And so it really is true that each island would be a different puzzle in a way, right? Like the way that different golf levels are, is that sort of what you had in mind? So that I do think, even though it looked like it was straight through, that in practice you would like fail on the second island, and then you'd be like, well, crap, and then you'd start over again, and then you'd fail on the first island, and then you would go back. You know what I mean? So that while it's not very fun to watch somebody do it successfully, because you're moving the thing the whole time, I actually think the experience might be actually pretty compelling. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just want to mention 2 points about the game. So
Yeah.
the first thing that the distance between each island is different.
Okay.
So you cannot just shoot yourself out and just in the air. You have to have some kind of strategy.
Yeah.
I mean, like you have to jump or shoot yourself twice in the air, and sometimes you even shoot more than you expect. So you need to turn yourself back or even just fall into the sea. Okay, so that's the difference between different islands. And the second one, we were trying to actually want to build this game as an exercise game.
I noticed there was a little calorie counter,
Working on
and
your-
I was like,
your
where
core
is the
strength.
calorie counter coming from? All right.
If you are not familiar with the mechanism, during the play experience, you will feel really tired with your muscle. So, yeah.
How do you shift? How do you shift it down? Do you move the handles, or do you like shift your weight?
Your whole weight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You'll see in a little bit.
Okay. Sweet.
And the Icarus device is sold as an exercise device. If you go to the company website, they're in more of the fitness space. And I feel like it's the same thing. Like they built this and like, oh my, this is really tiring. How can we make this a positive thing? We'll sell it as a fitness thing. So yeah, it's a true reality of the interface. I'm really interested to feel the level design because it seems like the idea of strategy is a big piece of this. And watching it was hard to feel that and see that. And part of it is I think the islands, I got lost a little bit in where the island went to next. And so just a bit of a sense of how to make that clearer. And it's possible when we play it, that clarity will come because I'm thinking about that. But watching it, it was a little lost. But I mean,
it is true that when you just see all of them for the first time, like the grass is the same color, and the differences between them aren't as obvious until you're strategizing about where you're going to land, right?
Yeah, and some of this might be like, if you were to iterate it, it might be just bringing clarity to what is hard and easy. So as I look at it, I'm like, oh, I gotta watch out for that because that's this. And that's just sort of like thinking about how to indicate things. Because right now it feels very water, island, and scene, as opposed to gameplay meaning for me to like think about. And I'm sure, my guess is I will develop a sense of that by playing it. But if I were to iterate it, I might elevate that and make it a little clearer to the guest. But mainly, I just want to try it. I want to see what is it like to try to do this and like work through it. So, yeah, I think that's our next step.
Sounds good.
Cool. We'll do it after. Oh yeah.
Thank you. We have five island, and the last island is the final one. So, and we are not going to, when you fall into the sea, we are not going to make you back to the first island. It's just to go back to the previous one.
So there's implied save points basically, which is like get to this, and now I'm working on this challenge. Okay, I mean, and all that stuff feels right. Like from the description of how this plays, those are the kind of things I'd want. So like I said, I'm excited to try it. So
Sounds great.
Cool. Good work, team.
Thank you, everybody.
Team 37.
What's Team 37's platform?
Nice. You did. All right.
All right, what's going on? All right, get behind the back. Everybody else. Cross the arm, Chris. Yeah. All right. There we go. These might, I guess, heads up. If you want these to stay tied, like do it a little bit more than that. All right. I feel like I should be standing, not sitting.
Yeah, you should tie them up after you put them in the chair. So it's easier.
All right, come on. Keep the I think sitting way.
Sure you want to rough them up a bit first? More realistic.
All right. Here we go. One more calibration. Top and dots. Okay. Calibration. I will say, just from the beginning, having my hands tied behind my back, I'm very conscious of the fact that my only way to interact is on my arms, which is a really good thing. I think I feel like it's where this is going, and it's a nice little touch.
Good now.
All right, my second powers. All right. No dropping, no noise. All right.
I love that they gave you half a pair of scissors first. Right. Let's talk about this.
So, I mean, like I was mentioning at the beginning, the fact that my hands were tied was a really nice piece of setup and theater, and it just made me, like I said, conscious of it, and it reinforced, like, all of a sudden, like, I was like, oh yeah, I have to use my eyes. And it was the thing I knew because I sort of know the eye tracker, I know that setup, but the fact that I couldn't even, like, use the mouse to click start was a nice reinforcement of my role, and it just made the whole experience feel that much more part of the idea of, like, I'm kidnapped and I have to use my eyes to look around. The psychic thing, I like that. I admit, I didn't know exactly what it would mean. To me, psychic was either predicting the future, and I think this is more about, I can use my powers to move objects. And so basically what I took away was I'm magical in some way. I can use my eyes to do things. And once the world got going, like, I sort of picked up on that and was able to use that. I definitely struggled to really know the mechanic for picking up and putting down. And I know how to pick up. Pick up is look at something, hover, and let it fill in. Putting down, I don't really know what putting down is.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Is it, yeah. So that was going to be my guess. It felt like a quick movement will drop things, because the world felt a little bit fragile in the sense of, like, things will fall if I go too quickly. But given that, I really liked the whole little setup. Like the fantasy of I have to escape, I have to use my eyes, and there's like a puzzle. One of the things I felt at the very beginning was the first thing I want to do is see everything, get a sense of the room, and I felt the tension of my eyes are an interface. If I look around, will I do something wrong? And it was an interesting little moment of, like, should I do this? Can I do this? And to that end, the thing that I was, like, the world told me to be really careful and be quiet. And I don't know, I guess I don't know how to fail in this world at the moment. I don't know how to make noise. I think there's a lot of things I did that should have made noise, but didn't.
I think they did. Like, there was a meter next to the guard.
Oh.
And I feel like some of the things would have made a lot more noise than I thought they did. Like, when you dropped that giant crate from the air, I was like, oh no.
Yeah. And I never noticed the meter by the guard.
I thought you were going to be done as soon as you dropped that crate.
Yeah. But the warning at the beginning was really nice. Like, it set up the tension of the world, and I don't remember exactly what it said, but I knew my job was to be quiet and escape. I like the fact that I didn't know what escape really meant. And when the first half of the scissors came out, I was like, what are these? And I'll be honest, my brain was like, is this half a pair of scissors?
That's what I thought too. And I was like, you're going to have to find the other half, and then you're going to have to assemble them with your brain.
Yeah.
And then you're going to, after that point, I wasn't sure what you were going to do.
But it was like a simple puzzle of, like, finding these keys and opening things up. And it felt interesting. I think the biggest thing I ran into was the interface of, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to pick up things. I knew I wanted to, like, put things down, and I was struggling with that. And so if I were to iterate it, I would kind of, like, want to get the game feel, to be in a place where I had more comfort in what I was doing. And part of that is the world says that I am a magical psychic, and this is like my specialty.
Yeah.
But the way I played it was like,
You're a bumbling psychic.
I'm a bumbling psychic who is like really struggling with their power.
Yeah.
And
And that's like the game, though, right? Like the game was the struggle to get your eyes to do the thing that you wanted to do, right?
And I think that's be the question I have is, because I wasn't quite sure what the world wanted me to struggle with,
Yeah.
and what the world wanted me to feel powerful with.
Yeah.
And because they're like, for instance, at the beginning I was worried about waking the guard, but once things didn't really happen, I stopped being worried about it. And so it became a world about doing the things I need to do as opposed to being careful. And I think that's where some of the iteration and focus would be, is like, how do you tune this so the guest feels nervous about the right things and like competent with the right things,
Right.
and that balance.
Because if it's a game where like you keep getting kidnapped because you're the only psychic in the world and people are trying to misuse your powers, then you have like future times when you get kidnapped in rooms that are like full of glass bottles, and all of a sudden you're just like, well, I can't do anything, right? Like I can see it as how it would escalate, right?
Yeah. And so like it feels like there's the puzzle design could be a thing. The actual gameplay and it being tricky to like coordinate, like I had to kill these bugs and like keep things away from the guard. And so there's almost like a plate spinning idea here. It's like I have to maintain things.
Did you know you could kill the bugs with your eyes? Because I was like, you're gonna have to like pick up that half of scissors to kill that bug.
So the scissors sequence, I had the scissors in hand, and I think I killed some bugs, and then I killed some bugs without it, and I feel like I could kill the bugs just by looking at them.
Yeah.
And so that was like what I got to.
Because I was like, what if you pick up the bug by accident and you like put it on the guard? Because then it's game over.
Yeah.
Right.
And I would admit, like in terms of like control, like the convenience of just picking things up because I wanted to was what I was sort of missing. It was like you could sort of see I was like kind of like struggling between things. And one of the things you definitely have is overlapping objects become an extra challenge. But the art style was really nice.
The pixel art was great. It was a really good choice for a short project.
Yeah, super well scoped. Like the guard, I don't even know if the guard animates, but I don't care.
No.
The guard's asleep, and everything in this scene told me what it needed to tell me.
Yeah.
And I understood it pretty quickly.
It felt like an early '80s computer game or like an Atari game or something, in the sense that like the graphics were like, even the things that you were supposed to do, it was like a box with a keyhole on it. You know what I mean? So like there was no doubt that you had to pick up the key and put it in the keyhole, right?
Well,
and I think that kind of iconography is like, it made the experience much more clear, right?
Yeah, and one of the things to think about when you're building experience for the guest is I'm looking to understand the world and my role in the world, and I'm looking for comfort in that. And if I don't understand what the world wants me to do or what I can do, like it should be intentional. Like the world should be now mysterious, and I should sort of know there's mystery here. Yeah. But if the world is sort of like sending signals and I don't understand them, it makes me uncomfortable. It makes me frustrated. And the signals you sent were nice and clear. Like those were keyholes. Yeah. Those were keys. And that was a guard. And we're trapped. You have my hands tied. So a lot of really good clarity. A lot of like nice scope and simplicity.
It does seem like a slight reframing would have made your experience better if it was like your psychic powers just manifested for the first time, and you've been kidnapped while they figure out what they're going to do with you, right? And then you're like, I don't even fully control these things, right? And you're just like, because then that would feel even more like the experience you had.
And that's a little bit of like meeting the guests where they are.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't have psychic powers. I'm new to the interface.
Yeah.
Can you incorporate that into the story?
Yeah.
But overall, it worked. I mean, I escaped. I felt. Yeah. When we escaped, it was a little sudden. Like I got the scissors and I was done.
Yeah.
My brain didn't have enough time to really register. Oh, scissors!
Like if you if your feet had shown up tied up on the screen and you had to take the scissors to like where your feet were or something to cut yourself out or something, it could have been.
Yeah, I could have seen like my hands come up or like there's a little big. But overall, it's a little detail. I think the core of this was working well.
Yeah, it was great.
To do it. So, good work.
Yeah.
Team 41.
One guest or two? Two. Do
I get to race him? That's all I really want to know. I had a poor show against Heather. I don't know. I guess I wore my esports shirt today. So.
bigger than you actually think. Yeah. Cool. It's like, what could you do with this? And all the things you expect are generally not what they do. You're just good about subverting expectations. That's cool. Like I said, you were working on 3D Revit.
Because it will be small, so yeah. All right. Can you actually balance on these? Oh, you can. So like at first you don't move, and then after 3 beeps, then you okay, so we don't touch it. Okay. Okay. Oh, you guys ready? Try it one more time. It's pretty fun.
Let's talk about this.
Yeah, I think a one-stage party game for a week-long thing was a really good choice. I think for sure.
Yeah, no, the multiplayer aspect,
Yeah.
like really, like it's a simple recipe for an interest curve,
Yeah.
which is we have basically the same powers. We're competing. There's a countdown timer. The level changing was a great escalation. Like the fact that the level shrinks made it really clear, and the level design, like my brain's still sort of like working out the level design, but sometimes it doesn't matter too much because it was really about you and me, and like
Well,
what
there
are
was
we
so
trying
much
to do?
interesting stuff going on that I felt like I couldn't just smack into you over and over
Yeah.
and again, because like eventually you'd hit a ramp or you'd hit one of the swinging balls or whatever. So I think it was cool that at the end there wasn't any of that stuff when it got to the tiny platform and we were just trying to like knock each other off. I thought overall all the escalations worked really well.
Yeah, and a great use of the rudder. Once we
Yeah.
got, like basically once the tech was working, it worked really well.
Yeah.
Like I liked the tension in it between, like I want to control it, but I need to get some speed.
Yeah.
And there was a really good balance here between if I go too fast, I'll lose control and I might fall off myself.
Yeah.
But if I don't go fast enough, I can't bump you off
Right.
and get points.
Yeah.
I definitely had, like the plus sign was nice. The minus sign was weird. What? Yeah.
So when you are having the minus sign, you can escape all the obstacles.
Oh,
like, because you are smaller, your collider.
Yeah. Okay. And that feels like there's just some depth here of like that's learned understanding. Like
Sure.
I got the plus sign. My first thought on the plus sign was it was health. I was expecting like my number to go up when I got the plus sign, but it actually made me bigger, which makes sense for a plus sign. But it like took me a second to like figure that out.
Yeah.
Once I was bigger, I was like, I know what I'm doing. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go smash you.
Well, the bigger thing was I was like, well, you're bigger now. It's going to be easier for me to hit you. But then once I hit you, it was bad
Yeah.
news. So,
When
yeah.
I sort of knew that because when I was small and you hit me, I went flying.
Yeah.
So my brain sort of like knew size is a factor here.
Yeah. And it seems like you can also push your opponent into the thing, right? Like if I want you to be small, I hit you into it, and then I smack you off or whatever. So yeah.
So is anyone on the team really good at this?
Yeah. We implement it together.
Yeah.
So actually, it also changed your mass. So your mass is also a parameter in your hit force.
Yeah.
So like your mass is 2 times larger than the others.
Yeah.
And you can use your mass and your velocity to have your force calculated, and you will get more force pushing up.
Yeah, and I think we both intuited that to some degree.
yeah,
like
yeah.
you want to get speed,
Yeah.
and the tuning of that felt really good. Like the game feel of this was about right. It matched what I wanted and expected,
Yeah.
to the point where the islands were getting smaller,
Yeah.
and I never felt like me falling off was like I never blamed the game or the hardware. I was like, yep, that was me.
Yeah.
Like I pushed it and I shouldn't have pushed it so hard.
Yeah.
And that's a good place to get is where the guest feels their agency here and they own their victories and their mistakes.
Yeah, because the first game we played, when you didn't feel like you had full control over the thing, it felt like it was cheap when you lost. But by
Yeah.
the time we got to the last game, even if it was a little bit off, or maybe my perception of it was a little bit off, I wasn't really blaming the machine. I was blaming Dave for whatever crafty thing he had just done, right? And so that's what you want, right? Is to make it feel like you're pretty fluent in the technology. Yeah.
So actually, there's a little slippery things that when you go right and you suddenly turn left, you also have a small swift of
Yeah, you
left.
drift a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think it was notable, like a danger sometimes in experiences like this is one person gets a lead
Yeah.
and they can just sort of sit on the lead and like it kind of kills the interest curve.
Yeah.
And we went into the falling platforms. I had a bit of a lead,
Yeah.
but you fought back and it became like it started to get close.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good sign of the experience.
And part of it is like a couple of times where I bumped you off, I was like, yes, but then I immediately ricocheted off and then fell off myself. So I think that was a good balance. Yeah.
Yeah, and the visual style you commented at the beginning, like the visuals were great.
They
were nice and clear. Like the color choices were really good. The background is gray, but it's not in a way that like feels like it's part of a different art style. Like the characters are bright, but everything was very readable and like work well together.
And the cool thing about this genre too is you don't have to explain like who are we, or what are we doing, or
we
why
don't
are we
have
on a floating
instruction,
platform in space. Like it doesn't matter, right? We're just like little alien things trying to kill each other, right? So yeah.
Because at the first time we saw the 3D rudder, we were trying to make some like character, like matching the actual
Yeah.
the outlook of the machine.
Like
the
an
shape of
attack
the machine.
Roomba.
Yeah, yeah. So we think about the alien shape, like the UFO. It actually have a hemisphere on the bottom, just like the
Yeah.
modeler.
I mean, if I were to iterate this, I would just take what you have, and I would think about like different levels.
Yeah. Or
And
4-player.
do we have 4 rudders? We have 4 rudders.
Yeah, I think the maximum like player is 4 players. They have
Yeah.
like 4 port for the.
This feels like a Mario Party.
Yeah.
I mean, game.
It feels like the game that you would sell with these things to get people to buy them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like it's like the Wii Sports equivalent for these
Right.
things, right? Does that make sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was fun. I mean, we rematched. We worked through the tech problems, and I'd play it again. So,
Yeah.
good work.
Nice work. Yeah.
Thank you.
Team 42.
Ready. Great. Ready. Great.
Oh, really?
This next one.
I like the Vanessa Carlton music.
Oh, damn. I missed it. Oh,
It's like Pilot Wings with Booker.
oh, where's the Thomas?
Yeah. Oh, this one. Let me get this one now. There you go. Oh, they're houses. Okay, I got it. I was like, yeah, it's like September.
Oh, no. No.
No.
Damn. I missed it.
I love that they're in a line too, so once you get off, that's a whole bunch. And then you overcompensate because you gotta kind of shoot and start driving away. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. It's free falling.
Reminds me of, I guess maybe Star Fox 64 had playing through this. I don't remember. Yeah.
I think I get the controls. We're flying, and we're using our body to fly through the rings, right? I mean, watching it, I want to try it.
Yeah, it looks good.
It looks cool. I like the aesthetic of this is really appealing. Like the visuals are weird, but not in like a that's like my brain's breaking and like why are you doing that? But it's like where are we? Like in this like space where like these like people live, but it's like all around us. And so
Inside of a Dyson sphere or something.
yeah, are we in a donut? I don't know. Like, is like the whole space actually a torus? It's kind of like, and the fact that there's stuff all around. One of the things I wonder is, in VR, can I make out things? I'm guessing depth helps a lot. And so I sort of want to go from a flat screen version of this to a trying it and seeing how it feels. But it looks like a cool space to be.
Yeah.
So like the main reaction.
Yep, my only reaction was it'd be cool if this environment became an obstacle at some point. Like if some of the buildings were so tall that you had to like fly around them to get to the ring. That was the only place where I really felt like the environment could be more intrusive, maybe. But otherwise, it looked nice.
Yeah, the look of this like had just, like I said, an aesthetic that was consistent and interesting, and I want to get into it. The music, I mean, it was like bright and light. This is a world that felt less about punishment and failure, and more about success and feeling free. And I think that I'm just sort of getting that from the way the visuals and the music work.
And those are like dystopian kind of atmospheres in a way, right? Where you like the urban menace of the city and the unnaturalness and blah, blah, blah. And like combined with the music, this didn't feel that way, right? It felt much more hopeful or something, yeah.
The rings are a super clear signal. Like, I know immediately what I want to do. I want to go through them. That's a little bit of like just learned video game knowledge.
Yeah.
Like I know what I do with big rings is I fly through them. And so like some of this is now like the challenge of like can I weave through it in the level design. I think it's definitely fair. I wanted the background, the space is so interesting. That's where I'd be interested to see the escalation. Yeah. It's like we start out and we're like at the edges, we're in the middle, and then we sort of like dive in. This feels like a world that if you had more time, it would transition to, okay, now let's go and do this part.
There's a big arch of buildings that you like fly through to follow the rings, and then or something.
Yeah, and I can almost imagine a lot of this world comes through the music.
Yeah.
And like the way the music shifts, the level design shifts, and like the gameplay shifts. So we go from like high and sort of gathering things to like swinging low and diving through things, and like the rhythm would change.
Absolutely.
And just like that's coming from just the way this feels right now in the video.
Do you guys know the game Flower by that game company? Yeah, there's like a little bit of like, so in the game you're the wind flying around triggering these flowers, right? But the tone of the game shifts because of the environment, right? And so it goes from being like happy, you're in a grassy field, and then it goes to like, oh, you're like in this dark cavern or whatever, right? And so you can imagine like in your kind of game, there could be like tonal shifts, even if you're like, oh, there's a doorway out into space outside this thing, and then it like feels different. Or like there's a grassy parky area where it's still like surrounded by trees or whatever. But you can imagine like how this would, if you had more than a week, right? Like how it would expand out into a broader sense of the space, right? Yeah.
Can I say something? Actually, at first we tried to design the thing in Flowers, or like the FPV drone, like first-person view of the drone control, very low flight, low altitude flight. But we found that it's not very easy to control, to balance.
You might just smash into the ground.
Yeah. So that would be really frustrating.
Yeah.
You're always crashing.
Yeah.
So
So you have to have a big space.
Yeah.
That way, even if you're off course, you're not going to crash, right?
Yeah.
And it's a thing to think about building an experience, because you're designing this for someone who's never used the Icarus in the first place.
Yeah.
And so you got to get them in, which is why it feels like this escalation is once you're comfortable, you like add in that little bit of extra bit.
Right.
Of like, okay, now we're not going to go like
Once you've gotten
super tight.
50 rings in the first level, then
Yeah.
you can escalate to the next version or whatever, right?
But it's interesting to think about in the design of this, the guests, both their skill and how prepared they are, but also their emotions, and how like this is a really inviting beginning, and it sort of suggests escalation that is, I would expect exciting. And like that's a good sign for a world where you're like sort of like trying to establish who the guest is and what they're doing and why they're doing it. And I can sort of see from this where I want to take it, and it looks like it'd be really cool.
Yeah, it's another one that's scoped well for 1 week, right? Because I think like the idea that you're making like the first stage of a larger game is like a really good way to do it when you have a small game jam or something. So I thought that was smart in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Cool. All right, well, we're going to try it out in a little bit.
Sweet.
But it looks really cool. Good work.
I look forward to crashing.
All right, good work, team. All right, I think that's all the worlds. I want to say congratulations to everyone for round 3. Round 3, the hardest scope round you'll get in BVW. So yeah, like a lot of really interesting work. I think you could see it. A lot of interesting variety. And hopefully in the teams you felt like the hardware constraints and like how those might push you to do things, where choices in scope are things to think about. The end products were all really interesting to play. Like a lot of fun. And in our talk about like where you could take things, the reality is you made something in a week, which is kind of incredible. And they all showed interesting potential, which is a thing I want you all to sort of feel is like getting to a place where you have an idea, you build it, and you feel it, you play it, and you're excited about where it could go. And then in the future, maybe you're on a project course, being able to take things there and like leveraging the early success and the fact that you have something and moving it forward. All right, that said, congratulations on being done with round 3. We're gonna you've got retrospectives and all that stuff, like sort of tidying up. I did want to spend a little bit of time in class talking about round 4. We are in a weird world with round 4. because round 4 is started in Visual Story, and I believe you all are pitching round 4 stuff in the next few days. So one thing I kind of wanted to do was give you a little glimpse of what story has been in BVW in the past, just to give you an idea of what teams have done, what sort of works. I've put out these, so I posted the videos to Canvas earlier. We're going to watch some of those, and hopefully that'll just give you some perspective. It's not going to give you like deep answers, but I think it is helpful to see like how other teams have made choices about dialogue, about like how big of a story you're telling, what techniques and all that stuff. So with that, I'm going to pop over here. Yeah, I'm going to go down to story around videos. So this is a story around spreadsheet. This is a lot of stuff. It's kind of like, there's a reality which is, there's a lot of stuff to navigate. But, given that, let's see, sort of scanning through here. Here we go. Let's start with this one. You want lights? Load, buffer, all those things. It's not behind this Google Drive. That clicking more won't necessarily fix things. Come on. We have to go to once on YouTube if this is going to work. No, we're not going to do karaoke. All right, we're going to do something else. We're going to do this. I'm going to force download. Yeah. All right, problem solved.
男，22岁，曾梦和女，18岁，两性联姻，一堂缔约，良缘永结，匹配同城。另女与邻家少爷八字相合，才子佳人，父母之命，媒妁之言。这件婚事儿定等圆圆满满。来，盖下印章，这契约便结成了。很好，开始准备婚礼吧。吉日马上就要到了，抓紧时间准备好婚服吧。邻家的定礼已经送来了，都是实打实的真金白银。你这边是时候准备些陪送的嫁妆了。你放心，邻家知晓你们的近况，只需装些令女平日贴身的衣物即可。的确是 算了些。你放心，令女前头没想到的福气，在后头等着呢。吉时已到，仪式开始，将2位新人归位，并为他们牵上红线儿吧。赤身劳气，连理相依，生生世世，长长久久。李成。这些是之前林家许诺好的银两，留着给你儿子娶媳妇儿吧。
Recording that audio must have been really fun.
Yeah, I guess reactions to this. So this was done for Story Round, I think last year. Yeah, any thoughts, reactions to what you saw? Yeah.
So was that an acceptable amount of talking?
Yeah, so big question dialogue. Here's the tricky thing about dialogue. Use as much as you want as long as it's good, which is really unhelpful, right? Like that's not much guidance at all. Oh my God, is the voiceover in that really effective, right? Like it sets a tone. And that world doesn't work without the voiceover at all. And it's one of the things you will see a lot is how dialogue is used, how is important. But an important thing to consider if you're using dialogue isn't dialogue, it's voice acting. And so that's sort of the danger of dialogue, is if you're gonna use it, it is coming with all these other challenges, which is you need to understand the world and the story and the character, and then you need the dialogue to carry that. So this is a world that is about like symbolism, it's about tone, it's about sort of mystery. The actual interactions are very limited. So it's not a world, this is not a feeling of freedom world, right? This isn't the guest comes in like, oh my gosh, all the things I can do. It's a very linear, you go forward. It's sort of about, it's a very inevitable world. Like you do the things you have to do and you're sort of dreading the ending. You're dreading where this is going, but you're part of it.
It's a game about complicity too.
Yeah. And so this is a point in the space of like where you can take some of this stuff. But this is an example where the dialogue is a big part of this. Some things, there are no, until the very end, and even when we get to the end, there really are no people, which is a really good scope choice. Like this world focuses on things in a really good way. The environment is all black, and that helps with the mood. The level design is very linear. We're going down this invisible path through darkness. And so all the things we see are objects. They're well done, they're well crafted. We don't see human characters talking and emoting. And so when we think about stuff in terms of story, like there are some really good choices in how to bring some of the stuff to life while keeping the scope and the technology in mind for this. Let's see. Looking at this. Should we watch She? Let's watch She.
Danny, come here. You're going to America in 3 weeks. You have to know how to cook for yourself. Show me how you use the rice cooker.
Fine, I will show you. I guess the first step is to use the measuring cup to scoop some rice.
Remember, the secret here is to have 2 cups of water with 1 cup of rice. I cannot imagine not having rice in America. You will hate eating burgers all the time. Keep going. Put the inner pan back to the rice cooker and press the cook button.
See, I got this. I can take care of myself.
Okay, okay. Remember to eat more fruits and vegetables when you arrive in America. Oh no, those new technologies drive me nuts. Danny, how do I contact you when you are in America?
I will show you how to use WeChat video call. Do you see the green icon? You tap that first.
Where is it? I can't find that on the screen.
Let me show you how.
Oh, I see. Where do I tap next?
Just tap the chat box with my name and the picture on the left.
Wait, the first one in the list?
Yeah, that's right. Next, just tap the video icon and you will start video call with me.
Oh, you are on the phone now. It is too hard, but I can practice several times by myself. When you have time, remember to call me.
Sure, I will call you when I settle down.
Danny, I figured out this WeChat video call. Did you arrive at your apartment? Is everything okay?
I'm fine, Grandma. Just arrived at my apartment.
Great. How is it?
Let me show you around.
Wow, your room is big. Did you have breakfast?
No, Grandma, it is night in America. Look, I cooked some rice with your rice cooker. No, Grandma, it is night in America. Look, I cooked some rice with your rice cooker. Don't worry, everything is fine.
I guess that's all I have for now. Oh, remember to wear the mask. And don't stay up too late. Good night.
Good night, Grandma.
小虎啊，差不多该到了吧？晚点回去要早的话，有时间就那个视个频。
你在哪里？要注意安全哦，注意身体，好好休息，不要太辛苦了啊。
All right. A little different. Still use a lot of dialogue. Oh. Flip over. Yeah, reactions to that. This one, I think, hits some emotions in a way that is like they just go for it. Like they're like, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna make you cry today. But in a really sweet way. This one of the things about it is so the first one, it's like kind of a big, it's not, instead of a story, it's telling sort of like almost a societal commentary, big thing. This is a small story. This is the day you arrived in America and talking to your grandma. It's not a story about saving the world. There's nothing about like being a superhero here. It's just a small, sweet, personal story. And told very effectively. One of the things about this, the VR interactions are really well done. They centered the guest in a way that was real and personal, and they had you make rice in a way that didn't feel forced. It's like you're showing your grandma that you know how to make rice because she's worried about you. And then you're helping your grandma learn how to make a video call. And then, oh my God, like the video call moment of like showing her the rice cooker, it's like, it's all really, really nice. This is a very, very ambitious world. The voice acting was totally fine. It is a little weird that Shirley Sadamarco is your grandma in this world. But you know what? It works because like the world sort of like has an emotional center that works. The animation on the grandma is totally fine. That grandma is there, she's serving her purpose. So a lot of this world carries on hitting these marks well enough. A lot of this world is done really well. So like seeing this as a let's go for that is a bit of a stretch. Any questions about this one? All right, I think I'm gonna go really deep. I'm gonna go all the way to the bottom for this one. So just for reference,
really
clicked on this,
celebrates
right?
the notion that in virtual
This
reality,
is
the only limit is your imagination.
2002.
A sticky situation.
Right. So about 20 years between that world and the previous two we saw. This is a pretty good example of no dialogue whatsoever. And it's an interesting mix. Like, so a little note. Yes, this was done as a performance. So the guest in the headset knew what she was doing. This world doesn't really work too well with someone who's very naive. But at the same time, like what she was doing was a real interaction. Like you go through this world and you feel like you drew those things on a level and you brought them to life and you sort of help solve the problems that the world gets to. It's a really good example of like setting up story and relationship. Man, like we get really quickly that stick figure is our friend, and then we get really quickly that the other monster is mean, takes him, and we have to go save him. And like all the relationships are nice and clear and simple, and like there's a lot of like strong story beats. Like we defeat the shark, we deal with the clouds, and then we deal with the monster. There's some weird stuff. I don't know if you notice, the shark roars at us. Sharks don't really roar, but like the sound effects are effective enough to punctuate this stuff. So I think that's like the spreadsheet has a bunch of story worlds. I'd recommend like looking at them, sort of glancing through. If you've have ideas, like the descriptions are there. But like I said, the thing to think about is using all these pieces. It gets really tricky. What you're thinking about is like the medium. So what platform you're on? What does the guest do? How can you make that connect to who the guest is? And so how can you give the guest things to do to sort of solve the problems of the story? And so when it comes to questions about dialogue, it's similar to questions about, model detail and scenery. It's there to help tell the story. And like, how detailed does that model need to be? Well, what does the guest need to understand about it? The thing about dialogue often is it's a very good way to communicate to the guest information, because listening is a thing you can do while looking. So be gentle with it, but I wouldn't dismiss it entirely. I wouldn't say our goal is to have, a lot of dialogue or a little dialogue. I would look for stories and think about how do you tell that story? And I would bring dialogue again where you need it. and how to make it effective. Any questions, thoughts about story? Yeah. Ooh, cave. So, if we look at this, one of the nice things about this sheet is we can, we're in view only. So platform, cave, edge of the world. We're gonna skip. Edge of the world is a little long. No offense. Spy Master, Mine Cave. We can. The ones I would look at for cave. Yeah. Commute's not a bad one to look at. My brain skipping over it. Commute, Zodiac Race, there it is. This one. So we can sort of take a quick look at this. So just quick context. This is the cave. You can sort of see here screen 1, screen 2, screen 3. They've made this cave look and feel like a subway car. This is the base. They've got 2 benches set up here. And as it says, the guest is on the left. The person on the right is a member of the team. So that is an actor in the space. The person on the left is, in theory, the guest that would come into it. And they've been given a vest with a flashlight and an ID card.
Not too bad so far. Nice. I see they gave you your training ID. Oh yeah, I got that in here. I remember that. I left mine at the office, so.
Please do not block the doors while the train is
I'm just like, why would I ever need an ID on the train? Right, what possible
We apologize for the delay. We are being held momentarily by...
Oh, I don't like that. I don't like that one bit. So what's going on? I don't know. Never tell you what to do when the train goes off its rails and all of the lights go off on this? No, I didn't read that in the book yet. I haven't got that far. Well, these don't look like they're gonna open. They're sparking all over the place, so I don't know that. Well, why don't you give it a first pass over? I think it's our job to fix this. I don't like that sound at all. So, should we try to open these doors? I don't think we can go out there. Come on, let's go check out that door. Yeah. Okay. It says don't enter, but I don't know. Should probably at least keep moving. Yeah, I mean, the one day I leave my key card at the office, am I right? It's all good. I got it. Got mine.
Hey, can anyone hear me back there? My door got smashed into the crash, so I can't get out of my control or reboot the system. If you get to the front car, you can fix the power and I can get us out of here.
Alright, you gotta help that dude. Yeah. Alright. Seems like the power's off here. Let me fix this up to the nice condition. Go in a second. Hey, is that smoking? Holy Jesus Christ! I don't like that. What the hell was that? That was freaky. Just went over at the window. Wait, did you see that? Looks like they don't like your flashlight. No, they do not like that light. Over there. Jesus Christ. Jesus fucking Christ. Alright, I'll keep an eye out. Thanks. One over there too. Alright, I think I almost got it. Just give me a couple more seconds, okay? Okay. Once that keypad is ready, you should be able to tap us. Jesus Christ. His hands are freaking me out. Okay. Does that key card look red to you yet? Yes. Alright. Come on. Get the fuck out of here. Yeah.
Hey, is somebody out there?
Yeah!
What the hell is going on?
What do you mean, what the hell is going on?
What the hell? What are those hand things?
What are the hand things?
I don't want to turn on the power. We need to get out of here.
How do we turn it on?
Put the code in.
What's the code?
43721. Do it quick.
Jesus, Dewey, there's one over at that window. Oh my god. Alright,
Somebody put it go.
3721. There we go.
Alright, guys, sit down. This is gonna be a wild ride.
I don't want to
this is so stressful! What do you mean? Drop 80%! 95% ice! Come on! One over there, kiddo! Power's on! Good. Never thought of it. So I was lights. How's that for first?
So yeah, that's the cave. Using an actor in the scene can help do things. There's also a person behind the scenes. I believe, like, there's no buttons on the screen. So when you push things in, I think there's someone behind the scenes, like pushing a button to say move forward, which is an interesting thing to think about in experience design. Of like, can you create an experience for the guest without necessarily having to build in a bunch of systems in the game? And having a person at a computer is a very valid way to move things forward. Like this, the cave is kind of like a theme park attraction, right? And if you had to like figure out a way to like trigger proximity and like you found the things, no. Just have someone at a computer nearby who like pushes the number and makes it feel like they're doing the thing they're doing. And this was all about like creating a feeling and experience and bringing it to life. The flashlights were a real piece of technology. The movement through the car is a little weird, right? Like the whole scene shifts, but it kind of works. And so it's all, I mean, these are all examples of believability. Like there's nothing real about that. But pulling it all together, you get to an experience that has stuff that like makes you feel like things are happening. The ending's a little weak. I think you feel like, oh my gosh, the lights are on. You're just waiting for that thing to just happen, and then it just fades to white. I think that's a time thing for the team. Anyway, that's Cave. If you, like this week, I think one of the things is like talking and like finding time to like meet with faculty. I'm happy to try to find time to meet. Try to find time to meet today if you like send email. It might be remote. But some of this is looking at the examples, talking and thinking. The other thing to think about is scope, and in particular, thinking this week, thinking just sort of like being in the thinking space. It's after break is when we expect you to actually start building. So how do you make plans, and especially how do you think about what is the first thing you'd build, and how do you structure these things up? The danger of stories is a lot of times it's hard to iterate them and build them incrementally, because you sort of need the beginning, the middle, and the end for the story to work, and just making the beginning and then iterating from there is tricky. So a question is sort of how can you build the full flow of the experience at like low fidelity? One of the secrets might be walk through it in person. VR is a great example of the way you interact with the world is with your body. So like write out the script a little bit, but let's like walk through it. You can imagine almost all of these as a team being like, okay, what will we do? Like one person's gonna be the grandma, I'm gonna be the guest, you talk through it, I'm gonna go pick up the rice cooker, do this. They'll give you a sense of timing. Like, is the interaction doable in VR? So there's a lot of little things you can sort of get just by bringing the experience to life, even if it's not digital yet. So think about that as you're building into this space. All right, that's kind of a lot. TA stuff?
Let me turn on my clicker. Cool. Congratulations on Lightning Round. Woo! All right. Reminders going into round 4, and I guess also going into break. But first, please charge things, particularly Vive trackers. Be courteous to your teammates, because we definitely had problems this round, and we'll probably have problems going forward with keeping things charged so that people can test. Second, all the second years currently have halves this week, and so all of your TAs are super busy and stressed. Please be nice to us. We still want to help you, obviously. While you guys have a break from BVW, we are working on halves. Third, please make sure that in all of your teams you communicate as clearly and effectively as you can. Be responsive in your group chats, whether that's Slack or Discord or something else. And then be accommodating if people have plans outside of the ETC, because everybody should have a life outside the ETC, please. Next, take a break. You don't exactly have a break from round 4, but we're kind of in this weird space where it's like half round 4 and half not round 4. But actually, please take a break because you're halfway through the semester. Next, the deadline is still final. I'm going to say this every single time any team submits something after the deadline. It's still final. Finally, check in your stuff. Lachlan will be in the equipment room tomorrow between 2:30 and 3:30 and from 5:30 to 6:30. So all of your borrowed hardware, please check in with him. Tell Shannon and I, your round 4 producer, sometime before fall break. It's not like a super time critical thing, but just before you all leave, we need to know who your producers are. Submit MP4 videos because that really helps us when we're trying to play them in class rather than MKV. Some of the defaults are MKV. Just make sure that you have MP4 formats. And then you're almost at fall break. Yay. All right. The workshop schedule for this week. We have team retrospectives this evening, similar to rounds 1 and 2. We're going to have a producers roundtable for round 4 on Friday, we being Shannon and I. Next, for programming workshops this week, we have an intro to Event Bus, which is going to be taught by Targi and Yan Yan. Yay! First year stepping up. And then Ferris and I are going to have a designing and developing for the Cave and Cavern workshop. That's going to be on Thursday from 2:30 to 3:30. You are welcome to join even if you're not a programmer, but it will be programmer heavy. Finally, the sound feedback session this week is going to be on Thursday, not on Wednesday, because Christian is busy Wednesday evening. Everything else is pretty much the same. There are no art workshops this week. Yeah, that's all we got. What's up? Do you want to answer this?
It's basically something that you can register events to. So in Unity, have you ever been like, I wish there was a way that when something happened, other things would happen at the same time without having to specifically go into the code of that thing and write that directly? Yeah, so it's basically another event system. Cool.
Any other questions?
All right. Thank you for your patience. You're free to go, and we're going to go up to the platform room and play some Icarus Worlds as a final little step. We're in a weird place with Square Round. It's basically started, but it hasn't started in this class yet. But this class is relevant to what they're doing. So it's kind of like, how do we get that information out there? Got a chance to see some movie difference. All right. I'm going to head up.
Okay.
And if you're welcome to leave. Okay. Guys, your computer says no, but if you want to come by the other world, okay.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Are you up for chatting about I feel like you've got, you are, especially like, yeah, like, it feels like really you're only going in a way that makes sense to me. One of the things that connected and started what I think we can do, and that's really cool. So I like the direction that it's cool.
Basically, now like try to cut out that world building part and use that as like a way to say, oh, you can see now type of thing.
Yeah. No, and it makes like my brain's like, oh, like I'm being like power slide into things, like these are the combination of like combat and driving in like a contained space.
Cool, yeah. I will see you straight away.
Yes. Sure.
That's roughly where it goes. Dave, where is that sheet, the ground floor view sheet?
It's on the thing. Should be on campus and on the main module page. It should be listed as story around video. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's a big stretch for us.
She's all the email. She just finds it easier to find. I know, she's ready for office. Like our yeah.
Supposed to have curved walls. The cave is flat. Cavern is different.
Is cave and cavern very, like, are they different?
They are. Cave is 3 walls. Cavern is one long curved wall.
Cave has a like motion floor. Cavern does not. Both of them have Steam VR like vibe tracker stuff. The cavern is much larger, so you can in theory go in it. The cave, maybe 2 people can fit comfortably in the cave.
Yeah.
2 on the platform, I believe.
Says the guy who made like.
If you're not moving the platform, you can do 3.
If you're not
We did
moving,
3.
yeah, you can absolutely do 3.
Actually, if you're not moving the platform, you can probably do 4.
The cave also has like cool lighting systems.
Yeah.
Cavern doesn't have lighting.
Yeah, and Cave has in theory more support. Can be more support. Cavern, if you do that, it's very experimental. It's like almost like on the Ecto Boots.
It's like Ecto Boots, yeah. It's brand new this year.
Yeah, first year cavern.
But we'll go over this. Well, Karis and I will go over this on Thursday, so come to our workshop.
Well, the reason they asked is aren't they giving their pitch tomorrow?
Yeah, but you can change your platforms after your pitch. Did John not tell you that? Yes, you guys can change your platforms after your pitch.
But
Yes.
I don't know about the story.
So the core pieces of the story should remain similar, but you can twist like little things.
some of the other visual story groups had small changes.
It's pretty smooth that part of this.
As long as like your kind of thematic elements stay the same, you can change things about your story.
Even though they have complete access to the third one and these just stumble upon
I
it.
mean, they can look at it, I guess. But like, we're not gonna look at everything.
I was talking to Jessica. She does a team with non-visual story people. I suggested a security guard role. We're used to fun teams.
Not the trackers, but looking like something with the keys.
Kind of like I showed Jessica my video from Pyre and how I use
You have the controllers and the trackers.
I think that's the way she always should probably go. Sort of like getting her non-visual story people involved.
It's an option. That's all I'm saying. Nothing we have to do. Just wanted to, because we were talking about it before.
But like after seeing the game,
You're supposed to turn on this third one?
said we have. Or do you guys have like a half of this in here?
We do, yeah.
Is it from 3:30?
I think so.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the projector just says cool. I can't get it to, we have to wait for it to pull down before it gets back on.
It has like a whole cool down and then like a whole warm back up.
It was off, blue means it's on, right? Or is red this button on? Because it was red
projector is cooling down for a while before we can turn it back on. So, we will play Ferris. Oh, yes. I am. I was like, I'm not even on. I'm sorry. You're fine. Oh, yeah. So is this in the right presentation mode or no? How do we make it show us our slide notes?
Are we doing a downloaded version of it?
No, this is just, since this is just a Google slide, I don't think it's here anymore.
Oh, well, it's in.
Yeah, I think it's just in what should we call it, version.
Once the projector's on, we'll have to, right now, these are good.
We can also, while it's cooling down, we can just practice with our phones.
Yeah.
We're not, like, just in a line or something, if we want, we can see it. And then we can practice with the clicky.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can practice with the clicky thing tomorrow. I mean, later tonight, I guess.
Oh, yeah, just louder.
Oh, it's on the
Yeah, it's on the side.
Yeah, start it on presenter. And then.
Oh, it's got a little timer for it.
Yeah.
That's nice. Usually we just, like last semester, we just had it set on timing.
Because these are connected to, like, the systems here.
Oh, they might turn the sound system off. Once PAW is. Oh, you just have to hold the button.
Hello, hello. Yes.
Testing, testing. Yeah.
Pinocchio is not a good movie.
So which one?
The new one, the reboot. I heard it's not very good. The reboot is not.
There was like 3 Pinocchios this year. There was 8 Pinocchio.
There's the one by,
Reboot Pinocchio.
what's the Guillermo del Toro one?
That one, yeah, that one I want to see.
That one looks more interesting.
Yes, because that's been like his passion project for like a decade.
Pinocchio.
Atlantis.
Oh yeah, that would be
It's
cool.
really made well for the idea of all that fun CGI explosion stuff.
Atlantis.
Projector
Treasure
will be ready in
Planet.
just a minute.
Yeah.
If you want to use it.
Those ones. The, forgotten ones.
Shrek,
Actually really
live
good.
action. Shrek live action. Have Jack Black be
I
Shrek.
don't think we can have live action.
Yeah, I mean, I can practice it with this.
I didn't write any notes. Not that I could read them, even if I did. My eyeballs are like, nope, that's blurry.
I just decided not to do notes because I feel like I'm gonna start panicking if I wait. What the hell is that? My animation thing. Wait, go up one slide. Oh wait, no, it's there. It was blank before. I don't know why. It was no, yeah, I was loading it in. I was like, why is that blank?
Yeah, probably just had to load it in.
I have to have the things there because if I do a boom on my right block out, I have to be able to be like, set it.
We just go.
I think whoever's talking can just do it like on here, I think, for now.
Yeah, here.
Oh,
I'm probably not gonna use the microphone to practice. I'll just
Oh.
wait till tomorrow.
Well, it kind of helps with handoffs. Oh, I guess there's 4 of us.
Yeah.
There's 4 of those. And that's this thing's working, and so
good thing
is
we
this
don't have to
now.
do handoff.
There we
Oh,
go.
nice.
I don't know if it's in the same view in every mode, but
Yes, it's in the same view in every mode.
Usually, whenever they set it up tomorrow.
they'll figure it out. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Because we'll probably have this, right? The clicker.
I think so. It looks like there's only one here right now. Oh,
I mean,
the
there's
other ones are over
2
there.
over here, but I guess we'll just hand off the clicker.
We could always use 2, maybe. Yeah, I guess, okay, before I start, how do we want to stand up here?
I was thinking,
I will.
I'm definitely gonna be on the way.
I was thinking we could just go in the order that people are talking and just kind of stand a little bit off.
Because we only have
Guys on one
we don't
side,
have to
girls
do
on the
that,
other,
like,
just
one
because that's the way we
person
did it.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Cool.
We could also have people just walk on when it's their turn.
Yeah. I'll probably stand like here, and then.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's what we did last year.
Yeah.
We all stood in the
Yeah.
darkness over here.
Yeah, and then
Although
one
I
person
don't,
is speaking.
I don't think we should stand too far off because I know they don't like that as much, perhaps. So like probably if you're there and if you guys are a
Okay.
bit more here.
So we should just be on stage, or
I wouldn't say
I would
necessarily
say
on
line.
stage, but like kind of like off to the side, and then on your turn you kind of.
So yeah, it's like if when
Are
I'm
we-
speaking, I'm here and Caleb's there, and then we swap. And for you guys, if it's like one of you's here when you're speaking and the other's there, and then you swap.
And how are we
Okay.
passing this off? It's like I'm not going to pass this to Lachlan to discuss the results.
Yeah.
Is what I'd say.
That's
Or
usually
would,
what I
or and now we're going to pass it off to Lachlan. Like, do we want to say what they're going to talk about?
I usually just.
I think we should not do that just
Okay,
to.
just say and.
Because
now
we all,
passing it to
yeah,
Lachlan.
yeah.
that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just fair warning, I'm going to say this with like no inflection and just
That's fine.
mostly for timing purposes. Okay.
We have a timer here. I'll start the.
Yeah.
Yes, you can do that time if you want to the in case this messed up. Ready? Justin, we're ready. All right, and go.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this past presentation. So this is our team along with our faculty advisor, Ricardo Washington. We are a discovery pitch project that is exploring a VR experience that utilizes visual environment storytelling to craft emotional journeys that can lucid create. At Corners, we received a lot of feedback about our experience that has helped us define exactly what we are looking to accomplish. The first piece of feedback was that it seemed like our focus was a bit unclear. Were we trying to create an experience that focused on dreaming or one that focused on the emotional journey and exploration? After realizing we weren't totally clear on this, we discussed and were able to decide that we were focusing on crafting this emotional journey via visual storytelling and only use a lucid dreaming that includes storytelling and lucid dreaming. We also received feedback that we may possibly be over scope. At Quarters, we had 3 environments that portrayed 3 different emotions. We had been working on a first environment based on fear, but we would be able to put in the time to really flesh out and define each of these scenarios in the remaining weeks. This concern also leads into our last most important piece of feedback, the lack of an emotional arc. Seeing as our project is focused on eliciting emotions from our audience via visual storytelling, the emotional arc is crucial for our design decisions. However, at Quarters, we didn't have one and were relying too heavily on only the one emotion, in that case fear, rather than how to build up to that fear. Having these 3 specific feedback notes, we were able to reevaluate our experience and how we should go about crafting it. We determined that in order to successfully explore how to craft this emotional journey, we needed to cut 3 experiences down to 1. We are now focusing on one emotion, fear, and have created an emotional arc that users will go through to build up to it. This puts us more in scope for the semester and allows us to really focus on and refine the details to make this successful. This also led us to deciding against having randomized rooms or layouts so that we can intentionally design and curate the experience around our work. In order to achieve fear, we will take the audience through this arc. We start with a feeling of curiosity, letting them explore the environment to ease them into the world. We then will shift into an unsettled feeling. We want things to feel a bit off, but nothing too extreme, only small changes. Then we would shift into our main goal of fear. Here we want them to have the goal of wanting to escape or rather wake up from this experience. Our experience has a win-lose scenario, so depending on what the guest is able to achieve, they would lastly feel relief or despair. Using this, we were able to begin more specific playtests and make more intentional decisions. I haven't finished this one yet, but our demographics is young adults in their 20s to 30s. We're definitely looking at sort of this fear of the unknown going into adulthood as possibly something we've been exploring and from our surveys and feedback. So our audience feedback is really important to our experience. We use the initial surveys we sent out at the beginning of the semester to start the And then from there, we were able to determine our success based on the playtesting feedback that we're doing. And from there, we would find the experience using that feedback. So as we go through the rest of the semester, this feedback we get from the audience is how we're determining our success.
So we did a bit of different types of probing and testing to try to figure out what people's reactions would be and what would be best to go forward with. So we started with the fear survey, which we did before quarters, and we were intending to do more of these for the other emotions. But after quarters, we cut the other ones. Now we're just doing fear, and we used what we found in that to figure out what would elicit responses, what people were afraid of, what they would associate as far as colors and sounds. And what did I do? Okay, I figured it out. And then we went into probing some of our art concepts that we used based off of what people had been saying in their surveys and such as that. For example, we did the fear of the figures, shadow figures, and figured out which one would elicit the best response. After this, we actually worked on some playtesting. We started by just playtesting mechanics to figure out what would make people the most comfortable in a VR space. For example, we worked a lot on the movement, what would be better, joysticks or hands, teleporting or continuous movement. We also looked at whether or not it would be reactive enough with the gaze mechanics we were using and other things like such as just how it felt to be in the VR space. After getting responses on that, we went into creating a basic emotional playtest where we took the mechanics that we got from the initial playtest and put them in with an environment that had assets that we'd like to test for their emotional response, as well as the changes to the environment. So here is not showing up. There's, what? It's not there. That's something we're gonna have to fix. And it's broken. I broke it. So here we have our playtest demo, an example of the run through. So it starts with curiosity. And from curiosity, we, yeah. So, what? Oh, come on. Okay, we're just gonna practice without it. So it starts off in curiosity. The players are supposed to be interested in the area. It's still very well lit. It's supposed to give people an area to explore and understand. This is one of the multiple different rooms that we'll have in our final version. This is just the first basic example. And after that, they will go into the unsettled, uncomfortable, where the colors start getting a little strange. Things might start moving or disappearing, such as why there was a piece of paper that was just floating in the air. There used to be a light post there, but it's no longer there. And after that, it'll get a bit darker. These shadow figures will start showing up, and it'll make people very uncomfortable, start feeling those feelings of dread and fear. When fear actually hits, it will get the darkest, and these shadow figures will start moving towards the player, giving them extreme feelings of dread, unease, and fear. In future versions, this is supposed to, they're supposed to catch you at the end and make you afraid and bring about that dread or that relief if you escape them. So I will pass it off to Lachlan. This is not working, for the results of our playtests. We're really going to have to figure out what went wrong with that because it's just not working.
So I'll talk about the feedback we got from this playtest and how it's going to guide us through the rest of the semester and into our next playtests. So the feedback we got was sorted into 3 main categories. We got feedback on the comfort and clarity of our game mechanics. We got feedback on our environment and art. And most importantly, we got feedback on the effectiveness of our planned emotional arc. First, on the mechanics. What's working is that movement is feeling really good at this point. Based on the feedback we incorporated from our earlier playtests, testers reported having a lot of comfort and no motion sickness. They also really enjoyed engaging with our main mechanic of the reality checks, those papers you saw being destroyed in the video. They especially liked the visual feedback from them. It was very satisfying. But while they were satisfying, one of the things that's not working is that only 3 of our testers really understood why these reality checks were happening. That they happen when you look at them. Others guessed it was proximity-based or touch-based, and it wasn't clear, and it's something we'll need to tutorialize more. Something unexpected is that a lot of players set their own goals of destroying these papers, trying to find all of them without being told. And at first we thought, great, they're engaging with our experience, but they later reported that this goal distracted them from engaging with the rest of the environment. Other testers said they felt too empowered to really feel fear. So moving forward, more tutorializing, implementing more hand grab mechanics, and then providing goals that support engaging with the environment more directly. On environment and art, what was particularly working was these lighting changes that indicated the entering each new stage of the emotional arc. They were very noticeable and every tester reacted to them. They had the strongest reaction to the first appearance of the shadow figures. This was definitely the strongest moment of the demo for every tester. What's not working though is some touches in the environment that were supposed to be surreal parts of a dream. Some of them were just immersion breaking, such as the sky being too close, the placement of some papers being illogical, and they did not increase the feeling of being in a dream. It just reminded them they were playing a game. There were also some environmental changes that just weren't noticed, and some aspects lost their emotional power very quickly. I think I'm going to get rid of the unexpected here. I'm not sure, because I know this is going long. But our plan is to iterate the shadow figures, because they came off as female to some of the testers when they're supposed to be genderless, remove the elements that remind you you're playing a game, and then make the environment more dynamic. But finally, the feedback on our emotional arc we found was very encouraging. Our testers reacted at basically exactly the times we predicted that they would, and this includes our naive testers among the first years who were given no instruction and no indication of what our project was about. They reacted when we wanted them to, and the reactions, while mild, were versions of the emotions we are eventually building up to. That said, the emotions are still fairly weak at this point, and more importantly, they have very little staying power. At each transition, they would react, and especially when the shadow figures showed up, they would react with shock, but then that would disappear as soon as they realized there was no actual threat from them. A few testers even thought that the shadow figures looked sad rather than scary and had the instinct to comfort them. So moving forward, we're going to do a lot of tests about strengthening the emotional reactions through audio, through indirect control, and sustaining them through each stage of the game. Now I'll hand it to Justin to talk about art, or do you go first?
Yeah, so I do this. So as we had mentioned in quarters, we had decided on art style for, now that we're focusing solely on fear, this is kind of our solidified art style for the whole experience, but looking at these more kind of sketchy, impressionistic styles to sort of communicate this weird fuzziness you might experience in dreams, especially around certain figures. Like that is an experience I've had with some of these figures that have appeared, so that is sort of where we're pulling our inspiration from for this mood board. And then some of the concepts we have going, these figures that we had mentioned, sort of we're basing them off of the idea of like the original nightmare, which is a concept that has been appearing in dreams for a very long time. And so in the far right, you can see some iterations we had of this that we play tested on people. And we also have different versions of how different objects can appear in all these different environments we plan to have. We have planned to have about 6 clocks that could be in these different environments. And we plan to do this with more objects as well. And then in the bottom here, we can see sort of the visual transition of our emotional arc with sort of the curiosity in the blue, the middle being the more unsettled face, starting to go into more saturated colors that feel a bit unnatural, but nothing that's too in your face. And then the final would be sort of really focusing on the intensity of that saturation as opposed to this darkness that's creeping in to really feel like this intensity is increasing in this moment with this unnatural feeling.
So based on the parking lot concepts, I created some 3D art assets, such as starting off with the parking lot asphalt, which is modular, the parking signs, the lamp posts, paper flyers that will be interactive and for clutter, and the moon. As you can tell, the 3D art style is more realistic than before, as this will be more relatable to the players and it will allow the experience to easily bring out the emotions we want from the players. Moving on to the shadow figures, our goal for them was to make them feel unsettling and creepy. So you can tell that by their current rest pose, which is kind of like this hunched over, leaning forward, arms forward type of pose. It's almost as if they're watching you, and they're kind of unpredictable. And you can kind of see on the way right, there's a very basic idle animation for them. And to finish off their visuals, I brought them into Unity. First added a very subtle Fresnel and wobble shader, and then layered a blur shader on top. One interesting thing about this blur shader that worked better than expected is that the further away they are from you, they become blurrier, they become more unrecognizable, but as they come closer to you, you start recognizing their silhouette and their animation and all their wobbliness. And this matches the emotional arc, which is great. Oh, and handing off to M.
So for our timeline, we've obviously changed it since we last PowerPoint quarters. So now we have early progress shown with this demo and sort of the arc that we're going through. So playtesting. So from here, we would be completing our full experience and refining playtesting up until that point. Our goal is to have about 6 rooms, and then we're currently in the process of making design documentation as we create these, but we would have a more complete design documentation to show of our exploration. So in summary, we're exploring the creation of a VR experience that will take the guest on emotional arc without the use of dialogue-defined narrative. The experience's emotional arc will take the guest to curiosity to unsettle to a feeling of fear. And we've had playtests that have shown that our direction is moving in a positive direction, as well as showing us a clear path of top to moving forward. Thank you. Do you have any questions? No. Thank you.
All right, so our time is 13 minutes, 40 seconds, which is nice. But also, if we cut out all the technical things we were having, difficulties and randomness,
I paused it while the video wasn't
Oh,
working,
yeah.
and then I came over and started it again.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, okay, without that,
I think it's pretty accurate, actually.
Okay. Cool. I think that's
Sweet. Alright, I just want to try, we don't have to do it again, I just want to try and see like playing from the beginning again, if it
That's
will
pretty good, though.
have that same
Yeah.
issue.
Maybe I
I'm
won't.
just going to borrow a clicker. Alright, clicker. M's going. Yay. Woo! I'm going! Yay.
Our entire presentation just came the same way.
It's supposed to start on play. It didn't. It's supposed to start immediately on play. Like immediately on link when it shows up.
Is this like an inserted video? Yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to.
Did you like put it in PowerPoint and then download it and then re-upload it, or is it just straight from Google?
This is just straight from our drive.
Yeah. We can try it again tonight.
Yeah.
And then see if it worked with the actual PowerPoint version. I think it'll work.
Does it not have access to our drive? Is it
That's
like
also
trying
possible.
to pull the video?
I mean, it's Justin's account.
Oh, but yeah, it might also.
Because yeah, it's not. It doesn't let me.
I'm wondering if it's because it's in
anything.
incognito mode. It's like
It might be.
there's like a weird permissions
access
thing.
to things. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's it. I guess when we try with the PowerPoint later.
That, or you might need to like put it on YouTube and then put YouTube.
Oh,
which won't be a problem.
Well, because it wasn't working in the PowerPoint either.
Well, I think because you downloaded it from this version where it's not working. Like, I think if you were to download PowerPoint from upstairs, it would work, is my guess.
Nah, just go upstairs.
Whoa. Whoa. Okay.
I should, just in case the sound gets turned on somehow,
It's an option to turn it off.
I can re-export a version with no sound if that would, like, exact same video.
I would say, yeah, let's do that, because I just don't want it to like.
Yeah, so it was an issue that we had on incognito.
Yeah, and so that won't be a problem.
Hello. Hey guys.
Hi.
Hello. I'm gonna be grabbing some keys, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Let me distract you.
No,
多年之前。对吧？就是最好提前一点，大概我8点钟左右吧。
他这个 Note 真的他把自己都改了，像 Drive 上我这边搞的挺大的，它的这个没有基础特别大，咱们可以调整。我这边颜色也不能调，这一点
这有点太拉了，反正。
可以加粗就行。
有的时候不是，它不是，就如果内容多的话，它不会。
应该就我这个它可能对，看一下这个视频当中多。正常我们得下到我不知道多少。这个还是下来，反正就会变成这样。中途让你下来。
小红书的这个页面都跟红色的因为差别大。
这个驴皮。
有没有类似这样的我就会看它先去死亡。这样，我就虽然我也你看它的清晰度。
感觉看不出来，感觉看不出来。这个是你的内页还是抄的？
我的。
做着不会
今天我最喜欢一个跳楼。
最喜欢什么？
跳楼模拟器。
我没看到。
上午第3名。这个地方还可以放 DVD。第一次知道。
Jenny 不是说 Oakland 去EC有什么捷径吗？
什么？
那条路确实。
他感觉过来挺堵的。
那条路每次都堵，它只有几个车道。
他说感觉完了。
感觉完了，我操！我们也完了呀！我去。
咱们要不先走一遍。
Jennifer 的 style 挺多。
我觉得，因为咱们现在推荐其实这些数据它每块数据很高层，就只能给它分来。
我的意思是，在多道或者在多 style 里 skip， 按在这儿 skip。
要 skip 就直接删掉，就下一个。就是。
就先从 skip 删掉。
待会儿
超哥有一个，
超哥在哪？
我不知道，我问一下。超哥不应该啊，超哥。对，那完蛋了，我5点半到5点40，哦，不行。
我5点到6点20。
超哥也在背着。
Holy shit！
咱们要不打个微信电话，现在就讲。
可以的，就也只能这样。
真正说这个是史博客的，他之前说那个 independent study。
先开，不等詹妮弗了，他不知道咱们。
詹妮弗肯定等不了。你准备好了吗？
我没准备好，我可以，咱们先过去，先过去。
啊。
那边门也关了，不然好尴尬。来，阿黄来吧。我是等于说是135跟我站一边。
就是咱们一开始那个站位。
对啊，上次是，谁是第3个甲？詹妮弗是第3个甲，第5个甲是谁？那你跟我站一块，然后你们3个在这边，就等于中间这边空的是詹妮弗的位置。
OK。
然后我们一开始的时候可以站中间嘛？还是说一开始站？
我就想一开始咱们怎么站？
一开始就这样子站嘛。
就这个顺序，然后 OK。
一开始不是，我们现在是自我介绍在第2张 PPT 时候念，还是？
第2张
PPT 的时候。那我们就站到第2张 PPT。
或者咱就从开始就分2边，就大家没有在中间，只有最后在这儿。
可以啊，也可以啊。那就我一开始我就站这边，我等于说是对。就。Hi, we're Roblan X team. So this is our teammate and our instructor. And what? 为什么这边少了一页？等一下，不对，没关系，但我待会儿改。So our client is the Roblox education team, and we also have Dr. Snow and Erica to help us in this project. So for the overview of this project, we are researching different educational assessment methods and exploring those methods in Roblox. And we want to help the educators in Roblox better understand assessment method. So our deliverable including a design document and multiple Roblox demos So for the document, we're trying to demonstrating the skills assessment in Roblox to help the educators, and also for the Roblox prototypes, we're going to we're trying to based on 2 different subjects and making the prototypes to use as a proof of the assessment in Roblox. The current subject we choose is history and physics. Our goal is to 忘死了 Our goal is to first research on the assessment methods, and we're wondering how the school teaching and how we can use self-assessment in Roblox. And for the prototyping, we're making prototypes based on the subjects in Roblox and use as evidence of the, we want to use as evidence of the student learning. And for the final goal, we're trying to find the patterns of the assessment in Roblox. Our demographic including 2 groups of people. The first is like the educator who use Roblox to make educational games. And the other group of the demographic is the target of our educational prototypes. That's including the middle school students who play Roblox. Let me hand on to Joy.
Thank you, Yunjin. The first process of our project is to look into previous existing product and educational games such as Minecraft EDU, SimCity, and Polybridge. All of them support system thinking, and some of them even dissect each individual concepts. We then reach out to a school educator about how they assess students in a classroom setting and how they perform teaching and assess students' learning progression. We also spoke to Scott Stevens about specific teaching method in physics. One thing we take away is teaching concept sometimes is more important than math and equation behind of it. The reason is concept can be applied to daily life. We then use evidence-centered design for our assessment method. Combining with stealth assessment, we then perform our first ETC internal playtest along with Thinkalove method. We process the game data to show the indication of learning progression. We're also aware of the different level of mastery. Our demographic is 8th grade student, but our playtester right now have a different level of understanding for physics. So we try to set a different level of masteries to more accurately reflect the data. We incorporate the ECD model when designing our prototypes. The 3 models including competency, evidence, and task model. We dissect 2 particular chapters of textbook and turn them into 2 small prototypes, which is in physics and history. We also process gameplay data through in and cross levels of gameplays, and we are tracking the player's completion, number of attempts, and also data like time consumption. And now I will hand it to Jennifer to talk about the data tracking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
我来读吧。
Okay. 我也在记。
谁帮我按一下？谁帮我按一下？ For assessment purposes, we need data tracking methods for online playtesters. At first, we decided to use third-party analysis to track the data, like Google Analytics. However, we met some problems such as they can only access the data after 24 hours. Now we are developing our own data tracking system inside Roblox using data stores and transfer that data into JSON and then pass into other HTTP server, for example, Discord. Here are some improvements after the quarters. 这个叉叉叉是什么意思？ Instead of design patterns, we are more focused on assessment methods. The other question is why Roblox find us, since there were existing papers about assessment. To make it clear, we aren't inventing new assessment methods. We are implementing those methods in Roblox. Also, we follow the suggestions about reaching out to educators. We asked Scott, who used to be a physics teacher,
physics teacher about the traditional assessment methods he used to use in class. Also, we're connecting to other middle school teachers. Let's have our two game designers introduce the two game prototypes that we have. Thank you, Jennifer. So let me introduce our physics prototype. And so the first topic we're going to talk about is why we choose physics. So in real world, it's hard to create an ideal experiment environment in real life. So we decided to use some interesting stuff in the game engine, because in virtual world, we can get the support from game engine to easily control the physical law. And this is the process of our idea iteration. So firstly, we want to talk about some classic physical rule, like the Newton's physical law. And because those kind of physical rules are based on textbook and easy to find a learning standard for us. But then we decided to build a prototype based on the real life scenario, because it's more practical and students can apply the knowledge they learn from the game to the real life. So today, the prototype we have right now is about friction. So it's a comparison between the rolling friction and the sliding friction. The process of our prototype iteration is like, firstly, we have a Figma prototype, and then we made some function tests in Roblox Studio, and then we built some basic levels in the Roblox Studio. Okay, so this is a video of our prototype right now. What the fuck? 是没有下下来还是？没有下下来。那现在7:50，加1分15秒，加1分15秒，一会儿加1分15，好。So 还在继续吗？ So this is the model of assessment we're gonna use this semester. So our model is based on ECD, and we have a data collection process, and then we will do the data analysis, and we will have the results of our assessment. So let me introduce our model step by step. So firstly, we, based on the competency model, we will describe our core knowledge, which is a friction, and then unpack the core knowledge into different small parts, which is a rolling friction and a sliding friction. And one part will just refer to one gameplay. And then about our task model, we will use chapter to refer to the core knowledge, and use level to refer to small parts of the knowledge. And each chapter will contain several levels. So in this prototype, the chapter is 3 different rooms, and the level is a single room. And the gameplay in our game, the gameplay 1 is change the movement of the ball by controlling the friction, so which refers to the gameplay 1 in our progressive task model. And the gameplay 2 is change the movement of the box to control the friction. And this is gameplay 2 in our task model. And we will use gameplay 1 in level 1 and gameplay 2 in level 2, and then combine them together in level 3. After we made all this stuff, we will start to do the data collection, because we want to use the data to do the assessment. And the data we're going to use is time consumption, completion, and number of retry, and maybe the thinking time. So after we got all the data we need, we will do the comparison between the player's data and the mastery we have built. We will find an expert and analyze the result of this expert and set up the metric. And the player's data will from the same level or across different levels. And we will also find and deal with the noise in the data. So let's talk about the history prototype. Hi, I'm Tanner, and I'll talk about the history prototype. So first, why history? There are 2 reasons why we are choosing the history prototype. First is apart from the physics prototype, history is a subject.
history is a subject that's more about past events comparing to physics that's more about the natural laws. And also it's a very big design challenge, a very interesting one to take, because there aren't many history games out there that fit into the context of our study into Roblox. So therefore we created the process of our history prototype is a little bit different than the physics one. The first prototype we created was a prototype that we created in order to make students remember the history of historical facts, but it lacks the element that makes the students and players feel engaged and motivated. So we proceeded to the second prototype, and now we are teaching students the causal effects between historical events. So here I'll explain how the prototype works. So for this prototype, we gave the users several elements for them to connect with each other. For example, and if you click on the elements, you can see the detailed explanation. For example, the lack of refrigeration and like spices. And when you connect them, you'll see a line in between, and it will explain why these two elements are connected, such as lack of refrigeration has caused people to use salt in order to preserve meat, and spices are then used to cover up the weird taste of the meat that's spoiled or preserved in salt. And in the end, the player should have a connected web, as in the bottom left corner, and they'll kind of have they'll kind of unlock and learn the little section of knowledge of that period of time. And so I made a paper prototype based on this, and we invited peers from the ETC to test the gameplay of our game, and we encouraged them to use the think out loud methods, and we also used verbal explanation instead of the text presentation that I showed in the previous slide. The playtesters all think that they have learned new things from the experience. That's a good thing about this the structure. So the structure of this gameplay is pretty sound. The only thing is that some descriptions and details need to be changed and fine-tuned. So how do we assess the learning of history? So we first picked a specific era, event and era. So here, I picked the European exploration and colonization, and then we break it into little sections and smaller events, and to have them connected. For example, in this image, for technology, there's astrolabe, magnetic compass, caravel section, and a lot of other technologies that together caused that kind of advanced the technology and caused the European exploration to be successful. And for the evidence model, we'll be comparing the successful connection that the player has made comparing to their attempts. And for text models, we'll have the same connection appear multiple times to test if the player has understand these connections. And then I'll pass to Haiying to talk about the playtest.
Thanks, Tao. So for the playtest part, we understand the importance of conducting playtests, especially in the project which requires a myriad of data. Though we spent quite a bit of time at the beginning to research on the assessment methods and settle the gameplay, we kind of divide the gameplay parts into two stages. The first stage is to mostly test the playability of our prototypes. We invited our peers to playtest by filling in surveys, and they rate the gameplay as very fun and intuitive. The second part is larger scale playtest. We're gonna conduct playtests with our teachers and students on the playtest day and the rest of the semester to test assessment effectiveness. And our future plan is to conduct larger scale playtests with our target audience in the week 8. And we're gonna complete our demos with 5 3D models and UI visuals in the next 2 weeks, and get the design doc done at the following week. And in the week 12 to 13, we'll iterate on our demos and document. And the week before the final, we'll deliver all our demos and documentation. And we will like continue reaching out our target audience and playtest before the final in the following weeks. And to recap, we are Team Roblox, and our goal is by making prototypes based on assessment methods, we researched to find assessment patterns. And our deliverables will be a document demonstrating sales assessment methods in Roblox and 2 Roblox prototypes based on history and physics. And now we are open to questions. 20分钟有吗？
没有20分钟，我直接16。
20分钟。OK。
至少得3个。
你们是拷过来的吗？视频？
没有。
卢卡，我用一下你账户啊，这是谁账户？自酌的没关系，用它。Let's try if we can play the video or not.